combat climate change? And why is Poland's economy booming? In which I explore Poland's financial success. Just search for these episodes in the Inquiry feed, wherever you get your podcasts. And while you're there, why not subscribe and turn on your push notifications so you never miss a thing? This edition of The Inquiry was presented by me, Tanya Beckett. The producer was Matt Tolson. The researcher was Evie Yabsley. The editor, Tom Bigwood. And the technical producer was Cameron Ward.
That was The Inquiry from the BBC. I'm Saroja Coelho.
Well, good morning, Manitoba, and welcome to a special edition of Information Radio here on CBC. I'm Marcy Marcusa, and we are coming to you live from Brandon, Manitoba, 97.9 or 90 in Winnipeg, of course, 89.3 FM. But we are 2 hours west of Winnipeg, finally back in the Wheat City. Great to be here. Manitoba's second largest city, so much going on, and especially this week with the Royal Manitoba Winter Fair, when the population of this city over the week can pretty much double. There's about 50,000 people plus in Brandon, and over the week they get about 50,000 at the fair, and we've seen and enjoyed a lot of those folks already. So we have a big show coming up. Really looking forward to hearing more about Brandon and its challenges, its hopes, its successes in 2026. So thanks for having us. Here in Brandon, man, we got some snow a couple of days ago. It was nothing like Winnipeg. Drove right into it. And then it kind of all melted off a little bit. It's pretty icy on the streets this morning. And our temperatures are going to be pretty similar to Winnipeg. So Brandon looking for a high of -1. Winnipeg today looking for a high of 1 degree with increasing cloud. And we're coming to you live from Chez Angela Cafe and Bakery. And we're so excited to be here in the heart of downtown Brandon at 29C 10th Street. So lots still ahead on our special show. Let's say good morning to the team. Darren Marash, Abby Adeyemi back in Winnipeg. Corey Funk and Prabjot Lote here on location with me at Chez Angela. And let's go to Heather Wells, as always, 2 minutes to 6. And we need to find out what's making headlines and news in this province. Good morning, Heather.
Good morning. Well, Manitoba is reviewing a decision to allow prairie counterparts to use a highly toxic poison on ground squirrels. This will be something that people in rural areas are interested in. Strychnine was banned across the country 2 years ago. Alberta and Saskatchewan got federal approval this week to use it again to help farmers whose crops are getting destroyed by ground squirrel infestation. So we're going to hear reaction to that coming up. As well, just a point away, the Winnipeg Jets are so close to a playoff spot now after beating Chicago 4-3 in overtime. We'll take you to the game coming up in our next local news at 6:30.
All right. Thank you very much, Heather.
Thank you.
And I have to admit, I didn't check the Wheat Kings score yet. What I will, because they're in the playoffs against Calgary, and they played in Verdun last night because they couldn't play at the Keystone Center because of the fair. So hoping they came out on top of that one. Well, stay with us. Our show from Chez Angela and Brandon continues. But first, World Report.
Hi, I'm Tegan Quinn. I'm a musician and songwriter. I am defending The Cure for Drowning by Logan Paylor in this year's Canada Reads One Book to Build Bridges. It's a really accessible book. I think that's one of its bridges. It's beautifully written without being intimidating. I think the way to get into this book will be different for everybody, but there's a lot of ways in.
Canada Reads. It all starts April 13th. For more, go to cbcbooks.ca.
This is World Report. Good morning, I'm John Northcott. U.S. President Donald Trump appears confident that the war in Iran will end soon. The conflict, now in its 33rd day, continues to spread across the Middle East. Tonight, Trump is expected to address the nation in a primetime speech. The White House is calling it, quote, an important update on the conflict. The CBC's Willie Lowry joins us now from Washington with more. Willie, first, what's the latest we're hearing from Trump on the war?
Well, John, that it's almost over. President Donald Trump telling reporters yesterday in the Oval Office that the war would likely end in the next few weeks.
But we're finishing the job, and I think within maybe 2 weeks, maybe a couple of days longer to do the job.
Trump says the U.S. and Israel have already achieved regime change in Iran by killing the former supreme leader and dozens of other members of the government. He has been so underwhelmed by allies' response to the U.S. war against Iran that he told The Telegraph the U.S. is considering withdrawing from NATO, a move that would, of course, have huge implications.
All right, a lot of statements there from the president, but there's this address tonight. What are we expecting to hear there?
So it comes at a pivotal moment. The U.S. has amassed 50,000 troops in the Middle East. That's at least 10,000 more than normal. And the administration has sent mixed signals with regard to a possible ground invasion. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth telling reporters the U.S. has 15 different options it could use when putting troops on the ground. He also said the upcoming days would be decisive and that unpredictability was key. Recent polls suggest that Americans do not want to see troops sent into Iran. Whether that will factor into Trump's decision-making remains to be seen.
The CBC's Willie Lowry in Washington. Thanks, Willie.
My pleasure, John.
Rescue workers pull survivors from a building hit by an Israeli strike on Tehran. Iran's capital has repeatedly come under attack by both Israel and the U.S. Israel's military says it's carried out, quote, a wide-scale wave of strikes targeting various infrastructure sites. Iran and its proxies have been firing back, hitting targets in central and southern Israel. In Yemen, a spokesperson for the Houthis claims the group has carried out a third strike on Israel. It says it fired at, quote, sensitive targets of the Israeli enemy, end quote. The statement says the operation was conducted in cooperation with Iran and Hezbollah. Canada's Finance Minister, François-Philippe Champagne, is in China. He's on a mission to attract new investment and build trade partnerships with Beijing. The CBC's Lisa Shing is covering the trip.
In China's capital, there are many Canadians who want to do more business with the world's second largest economy.
It's a significant market that cannot be substituted or replaced.
Take David Perez de Rosier, the head of the Canada-China Business Council's Beijing office.
There's going to be opportunities in services, in boosting domestic demand.
Perez de Rosier says Canadians need to capitalize on the opportunity provided by U.S. President Donald Trump, who's waging a trade war with the world and has effectively pushed many countries, including Canada, to find new partners.
To explore issues around trade, commerce.
That's why Canada's Finance Minister, François-Philippe Champagne, is in China, meeting with government and business leaders to build on Prime Minister Mark Carney's visit earlier this year, when he inked a deal to allow 49,000 Chinese EVs into Canada for lower or removed tariffs on many agricultural products like canola. Champagne said this about his visit.
China is the second largest economy and our second largest trading partner. So you have to engage.
Since Trump launched his tariff war, China has positioned itself as a stable, reliable partner. Xiang Songzuo is a professor at the Renmin University School of Finance in Beijing.
Good relationship between two countries, not only important in terms of trade, but also for people of two countries.
Despite the thaw, there are still challenges. Some products like pork are still facing 25% counter tariffs, something Perez de Rosier hopes will come up during Champagne's visit. Lisa Shing, CBC News, Beijing.
More than 9 years after a Newfoundland woman disappeared, a murder trial in her suspected death gets underway. Jennifer Hillier-Penny was 38 years old and a mother of two when she went missing. No trace of her has been found despite nearly a decade of intensive searches and reward offers. Today, her estranged husband will stand trial. Brian Cook has more.
As the first-degree murder trial for Dean Penny begins this morning, one haunting question will loom over the proceedings. Where is Jennifer Hillier-Penny? The trial is taking place more than 9 years after her disappearance, around the same time every year when the ice melts, the snow thaws, and the RCMP search teams head back to St. Anthony. That's where Hillier-Penny was last seen, November 30th, 2016, at the home she once shared with her husband, Dean Penny. The couple was going through a separation, and Hillier-Penny was staying with her father in nearby St. Lunaire, Griquet. She went to stay with their 15-year-old daughter at the family home that night while Penny was away duck hunting. She was reported missing the next day. Her wallet, phone, and shoes were still inside the house, her car still parked in the driveway outside. We know investigators seized items from Dean Penny's truck and cabin. They've applied to the court annually to hold on to those items. Years went by, and then an investigative break led to Penny's arrest in 2023. Police have never said what information led to that development. Penny pleaded not guilty, setting the stage for a jury trial starting this morning in Corner Brook. The trial is slated to run until the end of the month. Ryan Cook, CBC News, St. John's.
U.S. President Donald Trump is moving to tighten mail-in voting rules. Last night, he signed an executive order directing the Department of Homeland Security to create a national list of eligible voters. That list would be sent to state election officials. The order also directs the Attorney General to prosecute election officials who provide federal ballots to anyone not on the confirmed list. Trump recognized the order is likely to face legal challenges. The president does not actually have constitutional authority over elections. Trump has for years held on to his false claim that his 2020 election defeat was the result of widespread voter fraud. But his vocal opposition to mail-in ballots did not stop him from voting that way in a special election in Florida last week. Canada's men's soccer team is in the home stretch of preparations for the FIFA World Cup. The team played in a scoreless draw last night against Tunisia. It was their second of 2 friendly matches played in March. The next time we'll see the team in action is June. And as Thomas Degler reports, the team finally knows who their first World Cup opponents will be.
With Bosnia eliminating Italy in a penalty shootout, there was elation on the streets of Sarajevo and heartbreak in Toronto's Little Italy.
It was such a disappointment. I'm gonna go home and cry for the rest of the day.
With Canadian fans taunting supporters of that losing team.
Welcome to the bandwagon, guys. Feel free to join and support Canada.
The Canadian squad will host Bosnia in Toronto on June 12th for the first ever FIFA Men's World Cup match played here. Head coach Jesse Marsh.
We know how focused we need to be on exactly what it takes to be successful in this tournament.
As for Bosnia, it's the first time in 12 years the country reaches soccer's biggest stage. And former Team Canada member to St. Ricketts has this warning.
I can see that Bosnia is direct, physical, a team that is also disciplined and has good defensive shape. So they're not going to be easy.
The Canadians will travel to Vancouver for their 2 other group stage games against Qatar and Switzerland, hoping for the first time to reach the next round. Thomas Dagg, CBC News, Toronto.
3, 2, 1. Boosters in ignition. And liftoff of Artemis 1. We rise together back to the moon and beyond.
If all goes according to plan, that scene will be replicated in Cape Canaveral, Florida, later today. And unlike the 2022 launch of Artemis 1, this sequel mission will have humans on board. One of those humans, a Canadian, Jeremy Hansen, one of the crew members, as Artemis 2 is slated to go around the moon. Canadian Space Agency President Lisa Campbell says Hansen's inclusion builds on decades of Canadian investment in space.
In addition to the training by our astronaut, Canada has been a partner with the United States for over 50 years in space, and now we're about to launch humans to the moon.
The 10-day Artemis 2 mission is aimed at paving the way for Artemis 3. It's scheduled for launch next year. It would see humans walking on the moon for the first time since 1972. The launch window for Artemis 2 opens tonight at 6:24 Eastern Time. And that is the latest national, international, and space news from World Report. I'm John Northcott. This is CBC News.
You're listening to Information Radio. Information Radio. Information Radio here in Brandon, Manitoba on CBC Radio 1. Ta-da!
And now you can feel the spirit of what this morning's show is going to be like. Welcome to Brandon, everyone. Information Radio live in Brandon. I'm Marcy Marcusa, CBC in your community. In our community and in the second largest city in the province. Great to be with you. We're broadcasting live from Chez Angela in downtown Brandon. Come down and see us, but a very special show in store for you. And yes, the Royal Manitoba Winter Fair is on right now. We spent the last couple of days meeting some of the folks at the fair. We're going to hear this morning a little later from the mayor about how much it means to tourism in this city, and also about the current issues in Brandon in the downtown where they're trying to grow things. They're facing similar issues that we are in Winnipeg, but they're also finding similar success. success, like this place, which is built in a historic building on 10th Street. This hour on the show, speaking of the fair, an accidental run-in with a barrel racer from Austin, Manitoba brings some of the flavor of the fair to the airwaves to begin the show. Also this hour, the CBC initiative that brought us here to Brandon is called Communities in Focus. But we're going to hear from someone who quite literally put the city of Brandon in focus through a series of photographs. The creator of We Are Brandon is coming up, and her photos taken of the people in this city over the last 2 years are certainly creating a bit of a buzz. And we hope you're watching on YouTube because we're going to show you some of her pics as well. So that's all coming up on the show. Right now, let's return to Winnipeg for your local headlines this morning in Manitoba. Heather Wells joins us at 11 minutes past 6.
Good morning. Well, a pharmacy manager has pleaded guilty to professional misconduct. Mohammed Abdelhamid managed a Shoppers Drug Mart pharmacy in Morden between 2021 and 2022. The College of Pharmacists of Manitoba has ordered him to pay $15,000 in fines and costs after launching an investigation following a kidney transplant patient's complaint. They were without vital medications for 2 months. So we'll hear what happened there. As well, a Brandon Women's Centre is calling for more help to fight gender-based violence. The Western Manitoba Women's Centre has completed a study looking at the issue in rural settings compared to cities. We'll hear what they found in our next local news coming up at 6:30.
All right. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
We're out in your stomping grounds in Westman.
Yes, I am from Western Manitoba, and Brandon is where I got my start, actually.
You worked at a radio station here, right?
At CKX TV and radio. I did it all, man.
You know it. If anyone started media in this town, they probably started at CKX for sure, right?
Absolutely. And what a great news city. It was. I had a really great time there.
Yeah, you know what? This city is great for a lot of things. You forget about, like, we hear about, news, you and I and the business we're in, music, post-secondary institutions. Yeah. How about sports? And by the way, we looked up the score because I fell asleep. And yeah, Calgary took Brandon last night. So Brandon did lose here. They're playing at Verdun because of the fair. They're playing in Verdun's arena right now. But there's one more game, one more chance for them to push through these playoffs. So that's on Thursday. So we'll see. There were people actually that I thought were in town for the fair, and they said they came to town to watch the Wheat Kings. So
no kidding. Wheat Kings have a huge following.
Yeah, they absolutely do. All right, Heather, thank you.
Thank you.
So let's get into the forecast here for the day. So Winnipeg today, increasing cloud, winds will be 20 to 40. Tonight, mostly cloudy, winds also 20 to 40. Our forecast high for the day is 1 degree. The low tonight, -4. Tomorrow, we're back at 1 degree. Brandon is really similar, actually, to Winnipeg. Increasing cloud, a little bit of fog expected. We're not seeing that out the window here in downtown Brandon yet this morning. That should dissipate anyway later, and a high of -1. Tonight, low -6. Tomorrow, you're looking for 0 here in Brandon. Now let's get up to Thompson, where this is weird because we spent most of March where Thompson in the north so cold, in the south we were warm. Now we're flipped. It's going to be warmer in Thompson today in the next couple of days than it is in Winnipeg and Brandon. So Thompson, a mix of sun and cloud, 30% chance of flurries. Your high today is 2 degrees. And then tonight, partly cloudy, low -14. Tomorrow, expecting some sunshine. And once again, 2 degrees. Abby's back in the studio, and he's going to be covering traffic for Corey and letting us know what's going on. Good morning, Abby Adiemi. I think.
Good morning, Marcy. How you doing?
Hi. Very well. What's up in traffic? How you doing?
Well, nothing to report in traffic yet. Rush hour traffic not building yet. But if you see anything, you should let us know. 788-3093.
All right, let's give you a couple current temperatures here. I forgot to do that. So Winnipeg's -9 currently. This morning in Brandon, where I am, it is -16 degrees. And in Thompson right now, it is currently -11. Your cold spot's to Dooley Lake at -21, and your warm spot is Lynn Lake, actually, at -7 degrees. Well, up first to begin our special show from Brandon, when you come to the Royal Manitoba Winter Fair, it really is a celebration of not just people coming together for tourism and excitement, but it's about celebrating a rural way of life here in Westman. Yesterday, the huge main arena in Keystone Centre, they opened up the muddy, sandy floor after the formal shows were open. They were showing the horses and the competitions. They had some dog shows, but they opened it all up to a wagon and said, come on down on everybody and we'll pull you around. And so about 30 people got pulled by these two huge Clydesdale horses. So I got in line for a ride. And while I was in line behind me, I met Terry Mickey, who was standing there with some of her, a couple of her young nephews. As you're going to hear, she taught me a thing or two about her way of life in Manitoba, barrel racing. Hi, nice to meet you. Where are you from?
Austin, Manitoba.
Did you guys come for the full day, or what kinds of things do you get up to at the fair?
Afternoon and watching the barrel racing.
Oh, the barrel racing. Do you do that yourself, or does anyone in the family?
Yes, I do.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so tell me about that, because I'm a city girl, so all I know about barrel racing is what I've watched on TV shows, like Yellowstone, which is probably really lame to you because I'm from Manitoba. But barrel racing is basically like you're holding the horse and you are going around in a figure eight around the barrel as fast as you can, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit, how old were you when you first started barrel racing?
Not sure. I started at fairs, and then I just improved every year.
Yeah.
And now I train horses and I barrel race.
Are you competing here then?
Not here. Just
here.
at different jackpots.
Yeah. So tell me, even educate me on that. I don't even know what a jackpot is.
People pay to enter.
Yep.
And they barrel race, and then there might be a payout at the end.
Do you do it all over Manitoba, or in this area, Westman mostly?
Here and all over.
And how old are you now?
21.
21. Okay, so were you a kid when you started barrel racing, or more like a teenager?
Teenager.
Yeah. So cool. So is it a record time or a record time around the barrels?
Record time around the barrels.
Okay, so what's your record?
I don't know, 14 seconds in a different arena, and it depends on the arena size.
Yeah. What do you love about it?
The speed.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to let you get your nephews up because I love hearing about this. We're getting onto a wagon. We're going on a wagon ride, and I'm obviously learning about barrel racing. So, hi, how you doing? So, did anyone else in your family race, or was this just you?
My sister.
How do you learn to do that? Are you just on horseback and then you kind of figure you're going to race them, like it's part of your lifestyle out here?
Start them as like 4-year-olds and then teach them the pattern, just the basics, and then as time goes on they get better and they know how to do it, so then we go to jackpots and then they learn the environment.
How many horses do you have trained to barrel race then? Like if you're saying you start them at 4 years old, do you just have one horse you work with?
One that...
Woo, we're moving!
One that knows it really well. I'm working on a couple others.
Yeah.
But
and what's that horse's name that you race with now?
Hershey. Yeah, it's a gelding.
And how old is Hershey now?
6.
6. And how's he doing in the jackpot circuit? Like how are you guys faring? I don't know if 14... See, I don't know enough to know if 14 seconds is amazing, so forgive me because to me everything's fast. But tell me how you're doing in the circuit.
It's pretty fast. There's big arenas, so sometimes I've gotten 18 seconds, which I would like to get faster, but...
Yeah. What do you want to do with it? Do you see yourself competing for a lot of your 20s and going on to even bigger and bigger things with your horses?
I believe so. Yeah. I train for the public.
What do you love about being around horses? Like, I can't imagine that mastery of a horse is so one with you that it is just moving with you like you're one body.
They feed off of your movement, really, especially the one I'm riding, the barrel racing on.
Yeah.
He's very sensitive as to where I look.
I love that. I love it. Thank you very much for letting me do this impromptu interview while you're trying to just have a little ride with your nephews. I appreciate you a lot. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Enjoy the fair.
Yeah, you too.
Yeah. Austin, Manitoba. I met her on a wagon ride at the Brandon Fair this week. If you want to see some barrel racing, by the way, it's pretty much what closes out the night at the big arena here every night at the Royal Manitoba Winter Fair, and that's because it's so fast and so exciting as they corner those horses to do those figure eights around the barrels. I don't know how they do it. It is so exciting. So you can check out the schedule for the provincialexhibition.com if you would need to see any of the many things going on here. And if you want to also check out Terry's Instagram page, I certainly did that that after we met. She describes herself as a horse trainer, barrel racer, Christian, and farmer. She shares some gorgeous photos of the animals she works with. And you're also going to find her name, by the way, on some of the top pages of finishers if you look up barrel racing in Manitoba, which I also did. So I want to thank Terry for letting me butt in on her wagon ride with her nephews there. Well, we are here to celebrate Brandon. We're at Chez Angela on 10th and in downtown Brandon. Today it's Communities in Focus, live from the Wheat City, 2 hours west of Winnipeg. Maybe you've been here years ago. Maybe you haven't been in years. Maybe you live here and you're listening this morning. Maybe you've never been to Brandon. We have so much to talk about through the show. But speaking of Chez Angela, I want to talk to Stacey Parley next, because as you might see on YouTube, she sat down with us from the back. She opens the restaurant and helps to cook here in the morning. And you moved here, Stacey, 3 years ago from Winnipeg?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Why'd you move to Brandon?
Well, we have some family here. So we moved here. My wife and I have a kiddo. She's 5.5 now. So it's nice being close with Nana.
Yeah, yeah. You hear that from all parents, right? It's like, okay,
Yeah.
now I'm ready to move closer.
Yeah.
What's the city been like for you, especially in did you grow up in Winnipeg?
I did, yep, born and raised.
So what are the
never lived anywhere
differences?
else.
What have you enjoyed about Brandon?
I really like the small town feel. Everybody seems to know everybody here. You're either a teacher or a student, or you're both. So everyone knows everyone, and it's definitely very community based. But it's not close that everybody's all up in everybody's business all the time. But
Got it.
yeah, it's really cool. It's really nice.
Yeah, because if it's a smaller community, then everybody knows everybody and everybody's business, which can be for folks too. But the Brandon is like, about 51,000 people according to the last census and growing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in terms of what you see as the greatest hopes that you might have for Brandon, specifically downtown, we're going to talk a lot about that. Not that dissimilar to Winnipeg. We're on your main street here pretty much. We're on 10th.
Yeah.
And your business, the business here is just amazing, right? Business you work at here, Chez Angela, in the old Bass building. It's been renovated. It's a big old brick building, like Winnipeg has these historic spaces. But there are a lot of gaps in downtown, right? There's a lot of vacancies. So what do you hope for downtown, Brandon?
I do hope for growth. Downtown is fantastic. Coming from Winnipeg, it's really not as bad as Winnipeg's downtown. But people seem to be a little bit afraid of downtown. But it's fantastic, and lots of people helping out other people, and again, like very community based. So I'd love to see more growth. I'd love to see more businesses around, and even the mall. If the mall could grow a little bit, and
yeah,
that'd be great.
What do you think one of the biggest misconceptions is that people in Manitoba, that maybe even those listening, might have about Brandon, that you might want to bust this morning now that you're a Brandonite?
Now that I'm a Brandonite, well, I don't know. I'm not really sure what other people think of Brandon. Even like when I would think of Brandon coming from Winnipeg, I was just like, oh, it's just another city. It's whatever.
Yeah.
So
you were pleasantly surprised by the community feel, and
I
also
was,
the opportunity for city growth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even like when we first moved here, we had quite a few people just even in our own neighborhood reaching out and being like, hey, I recognize you. You hang out over here. And we've made quite a few friends that way.
Yeah. It's a beautiful city, and it does have all of that history, of course, that Manitoba is known for, and the big, beautiful historic homes and so much character around here, too. Love it.
Yeah.
All right, Stacey, thank you very much, and thank you very much for taking time out of your busy morning start to making breakfast here.
Yeah. Well, thanks for being here.
This is Stacey Parley, who moved from Winnipeg 3 years ago to Brandon. This is Communities in Focus, live at Chez Angela. It is 6:24 a.m. on 89.3 FM, 990 a.m. on the app and on YouTube, and I should be adding on 97.9 FM here in Brandon. Well, our show is about Brandon, but of course we are going to slide in some news of the day here on CBC. And so next, let's find out more about something that's happening on social media, specifically with young men. Social media is full of guys at the gym posting muscular selfies right now. Influencers promoting unregulated supplements and drugs to help young men bulk up. Those messages may be driving some teenagers to take some risks with their health. Recently, an Ottawa father raised the alarm after discovering his son had ordered a banned testosterone booster online. Dr. Christopher Labos is standing by to talk to us about this. He's a cardiologist and author. Good morning.
Good morning.
So how common is this?
Well, unfortunately, there's nothing new about teenagers experimenting with drugs. I think what's new and what's different with regard to testosterone is that 10 to 15 years ago, we were talking about older men going out and seeking testosterone therapy for andropause, which is not a real medical condition, by the way. But they were going out to get testosterone therapy because of, more fatigue, trouble sleeping, less energy, things that do tend to happen as we get older. Now we're seeing a very, very different phenomenon. We're seeing young people going out and trying to get testosterone or testosterone boosters. And I think a lot of it has to do with the conversation that we're having or that we're seeing south of the border with this whole idea of, men need to eat more meat, they need to eat more fat, they need to boost their testosterone levels. There's a very big focus on testosterone levels being too low, which is not true. And so I think a lot of that has driven a lot more young men to go out and sort of buy into this narrative. Now, how many of them are doing it is hard to say, because when people are ordering stuff online, it's a very hard thing to track. But we certainly are seeing more of it in the past few years because of everything that's happening in the U.S.
Yeah, and you can get anything online now. So what are the health risks of this?
Well, the big one with regard to testosterone has been the cardiovascular risk, and this has been the subject of a lot of studies over the past 15 years. Back in 2010, there was a study called the TOM study that suggested that there was an increased risk of heart attack and stroke with men who took testosterone therapy, and that was supported by a analysis of Veterans Affairs data in the U.S., which suggested the same thing. Now, that fear has largely been assuaged more recently by the publication of the Traverse study. So that was a study that didn't show an increased cardiovascular risk. And so, there's been some conflicting data here. Overall, the consensus is that in the short term, taking testosterone therapy is probably not going to be that dangerous. And that is why the black box warning in the US was removed for testosterone therapy. But that's just about heart attack risk. We still have other risks with regard to blood clots, with regard to arrhythmias like atrial fibrillation, which have been seen in the studies. And the big one with regard to testosterone therapy is prostate risk, because testosterone makes your prostate grow bigger. It is one of the things that contributes to prostate cancer in the same way that breast cancer is sensitive to estrogens, prostate cancer is sensitive to androgens. And so we don't know what the long-term implications are going to be if young people start taking testosterone for an indefinite period of time. I think the risk of prostate cancer is a not trivial one.
So just in our last minute here, what can be done to combat this, both, to combat it in the bigger picture, and also what do you say to your teen or kid if you think that they may have an issue with this or you're noticing this?
Well, I think the big thing and the most important thing is to remind people, don't order drugs online. They do not have the same degree of quality control. They are not subject to the same laws because they're operating outside this country. It is admittedly very hard to police the internet, right? It's a very, very difficult thing to do. I think what we have to do is we have to explain to our kids, number one, don't buy drugs online. It's actually not safe. And number two, I think we need to have a much broader conversation about body image, something that we used to think we only had to have with young girls, but we actually do need to have it with young boys as well, because they are being told men are supposed to be big and muscular and have rippling muscles and look like Arnold Schwarzenegger in his prime. And I think we need to explain to them there's a difference between being healthy and looking good. We want our kids to be healthy, obviously. We don't need them to look good. That is just going to contribute to this whole body dysmorphic problem that we are having in our society.
Thank you very much for being with us. Appreciate your expertise on this, Dr. Labos.
My pleasure. You take care.
You as well. Dr. Christopher Labos with us, cardiologist and author of Does Coffee Cause Cancer? And 8 more myths about the food we eat. But this morning, talking about those muscular selfies and influencers promoting unregulated supplements and drugs to help young men in particular bulk up. If you need us in traffic, by the way, I know in Brandon here it's really icy around, and I suspect that your active commute is going to be a challenge if you're walking or you're on those on bike paths today in Brandon, because it's really, really bumpy. We had snow here a couple of days ago, and then that froze over. On the highway situation, we haven't heard anything that's a big problem yet, but please call us if so. 788-3093, or if you're having a problem anywhere in the city of Winnipeg, Brandon, or elsewhere in Manitoba. Coming up, we have business news. Right now, though, your CBC News from Manitoba.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 6:30, it is -9, and this colder than seasonal weather is no April Fool's joke. Sadly, it's real. Our high today, 1 degree, with increasing clouds and a bit of a southeast wind. An animal advocacy group wants a federal decision on a highly toxic poison reversed. The move allows some prairie farmers to use strychnine to kill ground squirrels. It's mainly to help farmers whose crops are getting destroyed by the rodents. Animal justice lawyer Alexandra Pester calls it a cruel poison that causes prolonged pain and suffering.
They often die slowly from suffocation or exhaustion as a result. It's also an indiscriminate poison, so it kills both target animals and non-target wildlife, such as birds, foxes, and coyotes.
The previously banned substance was approved for time-limited and controlled use in Alberta and Saskatchewan only. A spokesperson for Manitoba's Ag Minister says they are trying to figure out if it's needed here and whether the province should also ask for an exemption. A Brandon Women's Centre is calling for more help to fight gender-based violence. The Western Manitoba Women's Centre has completed a study looking at the issue in rural settings compared to cities. It recommends more accessible and safe housing, boosting trauma-informed care, and creating survivor-led peer support networks. Project coordinator Jamie Brown says there are complex barriers for people living in isolated communities.
In addition to the training by our astronaut, Canada...
It can be very eye-opening to, something as simple as transportation or childcare, and the stigma that still exists in rural contexts is still very, very prevalent.
Brandon's Women's Centre wants to use this report to develop services and outreach in rural areas. A minimum wage that falls short of what Manitoba workers need. That statement from the president of the Manitoba Federation of Labour says the lowest paid workers in this province face a harsh reality of working full-time but still living in poverty. Kevin Reback is calling on the province to create a plan to lift those workers out of poverty. Manitoba's minimum wage is set to rise 40 cents an hour to $16.40 on October 1st. The MFL points to calculations by the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives showing workers in Winnipeg need to earn more than $19 an hour just to meet their basic needs. A pharmacy manager has pleaded guilty to professional misconduct. Mohammed Aldel Hamid managed a Shoppers Drug Mart pharmacy in Morden between 2021 and 2022. The College of Pharmacists of Manitoba has ordered him to pay $15,000 in fines and costs. It launched an investigation after a kidney transplant patient complained they were without vital medications for 2 months. The patient required surgery but suffered permanent damage. The caller says the delay was caused by the pharmacy, which sent refill authorization forms to the wrong hospital twice. Well, if all goes according to plan, this scene will be replicated at Cape Canaveral, Florida today of a blast-off. Unlike the 2022 launch of Artemis 1, the sequel is going to have humans on board, and one of them is a Canadian. Jeremy Hansen, one of the crew as Artemis 2 is slated to go around the moon. Canadian Space Agency President Lisa Campbell says his inclusion builds on decades of Canadian investment in space.
In addition to the training by our astronaut, Canada has been a partner with the United States for over 50 years in space, and now we're about to launch humans to the moon.
Today's launch window for Artemis 2 opens at 6:24 Eastern Time. You can hear the latest on this story coming up on World Report at 7. It is a homecoming for one of wrestling's biggest stars tonight in Winnipeg.
Omega, one winged angel!
Kenny Omega has won championships in the U.S. and Japan and won awards like Wrestler and Match of the Year numerous times. But tonight, he is in his hometown for the first time since diverticulitis almost ended his career.
All of those days of taking a chance on the diet, on the training, on the physio. I feel like being able to be in this position now where we're speaking like this and I'm about to have a live performance in front of friends and family and fans from the town that I grew up in, I think it just made it all worth it.
All Elite Wrestling hosts a live broadcast of its show at Canada Life Centre. And taking it to overtime.
Mark Sedley, Potter shoots and scores!
Kyle Connor just 33 seconds into overtime for a Winnipeg win in Chicago. The Jets now just 1 point away from a playoff spot. Head coach Scott Arniel says his team still has a lot of heavy lifting.
We just said take care of our own business, and that's what we're trying to do. And that's we got ourselves here, but we can't take our foot off the gas.
Next up in the playoff hunt, the Jets are in Dallas tomorrow and they face Columbus on Saturday. You can find more news updated throughout the day. Just head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Okay, Heather Wells, we are in Brandon for our show, and obviously we're here tomorrow as well, and we've also been doing, some coverage of the fairs. We've been around the fairgrounds. Did you go to the fair a lot, given that you were from Westman, like when you were a kid?
When I was a kid, yeah, we'd go for 4-H. We would go with our 4-H club and do the calf scramble and all of that stuff.
Do you still remember what the H's stand for?
I do. Head, heart, health, and hands, of course.
Look
and
at you,
the motto,
so
the
quick.
4-H motto, learn to do by doing.
What is the calf scramble?
So the calf scramble, it's fun. I was a bit of a chicken, so I really didn't do very well. But the calf scramble is when you have some calves in a ring and you have some kids with ropes and you let them loose, and the kids are supposed to tackle a calf and tie up its legs.
Little Heather wasn't into it?
Well, I was a little timid. Do I really have to do this, Dad?
So Corey and I are here, obviously. Now, I have never, in all these years, I've never been to the fair. And Corey, this is your first time too,
Never
right?
been. My wife, she went as a kid all the time. They'd drive from Winnipeg during spring break to go with her full family, but I'd never been.
So what was your impression of the fairgrounds themselves, like at the Keystone Center itself, and walking around all the area?
I don't think people realize how sprawling of a building it is. It's 540,000 square feet. Like it's massive. So it's like not just the arena. There's theaters. There's
multiple arenas.
There's 5 barns in the basement. That's where I went for a story that's coming up later on. 5 barns full of horses. And the cool thing is actually, you kind of go down a ramp and you go down to the bottom where all the barns are. And there's a rule when you go down. It's horses have right of way. So, because there's just so many animals going back and forth.
No wonder we were getting the stink eye yesterday, me and Prob, as the cows were trying to get by. I think cows have the right of way.
Yeah,
too.
Exactly. Animals have right of way when you're in the bottom of the Keystone Center. And sure enough, you're kind of dodging like manure and you're kind of walking around. But then all of a sudden, there's like a bar there, like right outside the bar, and it's like for all the
exhibitors and trainers.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
So it's this really cool vibe, and there's just so much space. Like I really like if you go in, it's sprawling. It's
give us a small preview of the family. Next hour.
Yeah, so next hour I spoke with Erin Anderson. Her family has been competing horses for 70 years, and now she's been doing for about 60 of those.
Yep.
And now she's actually stepped back into more of a coaching role, and her 12-year-old granddaughter is competing. So I interviewed both of them, and I actually that's where I went, one of those, barn number 2, to meet up with them to talk about their family's legacy with horse racing, what it's like to be your granddaughter getting trained by your grandma.
It's all in the family. All right. Thank you, Corey.
Thank you.
Looking forward to that story. We're live in Brandon this morning, in case you're just joining us. Special edition of Information Radio from the Keystone City. And we're at Chez Angela. We're in downtown Brandon. And that is, Corey's just getting his headphones off there. We're in downtown Brandon. We're on 10th Street. If you want to join us, Chez Angela Bakery and Cafe. Huge thanks to James and Angela Chambers for hosting us here. We have much to talk about around this city, its growth, and what Brandon is like in 2026, and also celebrating the Royal Manitoba Winter Fair, which throughout the week brings often some 40 to 50,000 visitors. So we'll see what their final attendance is going to end up being this week for this year. Right now, let's dip briefly into the regional forecast. Winnipeg, increasing cloud, winds 20 to 40, high of 1 degree today. Tonight, mainly cloudy, low -4. Tomorrow, we still stay above 0. Want to mention Brandon, very similar here. Out the window, we can see icy conditions, some of the melting from the earlier snow in the week. We are expecting some fog in Westman this morning. That should dissipate later. Your highs -1 here in Brandon. Tonight, low down to -6. Tomorrow here in Brandon, it's going to be 0. Finally, in Thompson, mix of sun and cloud. Chance of flurries today, a high 2 degrees, so warmer up north than the south. Tonight, partly cloudy, low -14. And then tomorrow, again, you're expecting sunshine and a really nice 2 degrees up in Thompson. So that's your regional weather forecast here on CBC and on 97.9 FM in Brandon, I should be mentioning. In traffic, if you are spotting anything, give us a call. Abby just checked, and all all the lines are clear so far. So hopefully you're just having a regular spring drive, which means it's clear where there's pavement, maybe a little icy where it's covered from snow. But right now we're not seeing anything active. But call us if you have an issue. The CBC commuter line is 788-3093. It's 20 minutes to 7 o'clock on our show from Brandon, and it's time to check in with Crystalie Ramlakan, who's here with our business news. Good morning.
Hi, good morning, Marcy.
So as we're entering the second month of this war in the Middle East now, markets are continuing to swing all over the place. So what's the latest?
Yes, that's right. So Canadian and U.S. stock markets rallied yesterday. Markets seized on some signals of a possible end to the war. So the S&P TSX was up more than 800 points, and the Dow Jones was up more than 1,100 points. A drop in oil prices helped drive some of the enthusiasm. So oil prices turned lower following a news report quoting Iran's president saying the country has a will to end the war as long as certain requirements are met. And optimism entered the markets overnight following a report from the Wall Street Journal saying U.S. President Donald Trump told aides he's willing to end the U.S. military campaign against Iran, even if the Strait of Hormuz remains largely closed. So the White House says Trump will deliver an important update on Iran tonight. So people will certainly be watching that. Now, on the Canadian stock market, gains were led by the basic materials sector. Gold was up, which suffered last month after, as we've seen an incredible run for it in the last year. And investors also digested new data that suggested the economy was rebounding the first few months of the year after a mild contraction to close last year. And tech stocks were the strongest forces lifting the U.S. market. But analysts say that should be taken with a grain of salt after the Magnificent Seven, a group of highly influential tech stocks, recently collapsed.
Let's move to the trade war between the U.S. and Canada next year. There's a new report from the United States that's citing several trade irritants, they say. Can you break down what this is?
Yes. So provincial rules around alcohol and the federal government's Buy Canadian policy have been flagged in this report. The annual document prepared by the Office of the United States Trade Representative says market access barriers greatly hamper exports of U.S. wine, beer, and spirits to Canada. And as we know, several Canadian provinces pulled American booze from shelves last year. But that was after Trump imposed tariffs. So the document says the U.S. wants its alcohol to immediately and permanently return to all markets. And this comes as the Canada-U.S.-Mexico trade agreement, also known as CUSMA, is up for review this summer. So Mexico and the U.S. have started formal talks, but U.S. Trade Representative Jameson Greer has said talks with Canada were lagging behind. Now, Canada-U.S. Trade Minister Dominic LeBlanc says trade talks have resumed, though, within the past number of weeks after a 5-month hiatus triggered by Trump last fall.
We're waiting.
So he
right?
also says he isn't worried Mexico will sign a trade agreement that excludes Canada.
Do you know what the out on the clip is?
Led a trade mission to Mexico earlier this year, and a Mexican trade delegation is set to travel to Canada in May. So here's more from the minister from earlier this week.
My view is that the conversations with U.S. counterparts remain productive and we remain engaged. We've also said all along that there will be a bilateral element to these discussions, and there will be also a trilateral element.
So the CUSMA review sets up a 3-way choice for each country to make in July. They can renew the deal for another 16 years, withdraw from it, or signal both non-renewal and non-withdrawal, which would trigger an annual review that could keep negotiations going for up to a decade.
All right, Crystalie, we're going to leave it there. We've got an interview actually about oil prices coming up right now, so we'll build on what you shared with us this morning, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Marcy. Actually, Phil will be here tomorrow, but we'll talk to you next week.
Okay, super. Thank you. Take care.
Thanks.
Christely Ramlakan back next week with us. Bill DeMont back with more business news tomorrow. Our regular business reports heard every morning at this time. This time is 6:44 a.m. You're on CBC on 97.9 FM in Brandon, 89.3 FM in Winnipeg, and we are live in Brandon this morning. Still ahead in this half hour, we're going to hear about a very special project that happened here. A documentary photographer started a project 2 years ago, and she's been taking pictures of people in this city. And they're all together in a beautiful collection called We Are Brandon. And we're going to see some of those photos as we're streaming live on YouTube if you're watching, and we're going to talk to her. She's here at Chez Angelo on 10th with us, so stay tuned. That's coming up. But as I alluded to with Crystal Lee, we have a guest that's going to talk to us about what's happening with the war. Not looking good for a quick end to the U.S.-Israel war against Iran. It seems to be escalating on all fronts. It continues to put pressure, as you've been hearing, on global prices for oil and natural gas. Our next guest says, buckle up. It's going to get ugly. He says we are living through the biggest energy shock in recent history. Markham Hislop is a journalist who covers energy markets, and he joins us with a few minutes just to highlight the latest. He's in Parksville, BC. Good morning.
Good morning.
So what are industry experts saying about global oil over the next month, in your view, if the Strait of Hormuz remains effectively closed?
20% of the world's oil and gas goes through the Strait of Hormuz, and we're already seeing oil prices up at $100 a barrel this morning. The experts that I've interviewed say that it could go up to easily $150 a barrel. And at this point, this is not the biggest energy shock in recent history. It's the biggest energy shock in all of history. So it's very chaotic. Still much to be resolved. We don't know, but it doesn't look good. My advice to consumers is prepare for the worst, not the best.
What does the worst mean in Canada?
High prices. We're not going to see much in the way of natural gas. We have a plentiful supply and low prices here in Canada, but we're already seeing pain at the pump right on the Vancouver Island where I live. We're paying about $2.05 a liter. That could continue to go up. But if this continues, we're going to see these high oil and gas prices passed on to consumers, and we could see a spike in the consumer index, in inflation. We could see employment rise. At this point, it's hard to say, to look into the future. We're only a month into this conflict in Iran. So all eyes on what Donald Trump and in Israel decide in terms of, and whether Iran allows the Strait of Hormuz to open up.
What are you going to be? I'm just really intensely curious what you specifically will be listening for tonight when he gives his address then.
I don't... Forgive me, but I don't put a lot of faith in what Donald Trump says publicly. He said
which is part of the sectors the Americans are focusing on.
That's exactly right. Chaotic management style, unprepared.
Or singling out
the most unprofessional and incompetent military campaigns in
Target sounds a little
history. But I'll tell you what I am watching, and that is Asia's response to all of this. Because Asia has been electrifying, led by China. It's been electrifying now for the better part of almost 2 decades. And it has options. Instead of buying more oil and gas or at a higher price, it can say, no, you know what? We're going to continue to expand our power sector. We're going to continue accelerate deployment of EVs and heat pumps, those sorts of electric technologies, and we're going to reduce our imports of oil and gas. And China has all sorts of manufacturing of cheap electrotech. So if there's a major shift in Asian energy policy to reduce oil and gas imports and electrify at an accelerated rate, that is a game changer, and that's what I'll be watching for.
Thank you very much, Markham, for being with us and giving us a snapshot of this with your perspective this morning. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
That was a journalist, Markham Hislop, a journalist who covers energy. We reached him this morning in Parkville, BC.
A pizza that takes 1.5 years to be delivered to your home. Yay! Sad Skittles.
Is it awesome? Where you can't hold your newborn baby boy in your arms.
And then there's
Puppy Monkey Baby.
Friends.
Unhinged advertising.
I read
the power of the
literally
absurd
read penning
on
it
Under
as
the
I walked
Influence
up the
with Terry
stairs here.
O'Reilly.
It's
Thursday
hard to
morning at
explain
11:30,
these things
3:30 p.m.
Yes.
in
Anyway,
Newfoundland.
there is a clip at the end
CBC
of my first answer.
You were going to pick
It
up.
is right now 11 minutes
out
to
of the
7
clip.
o'clock on 89.3 FM, 97.9 FM here in Brandon. We're broadcasting live from Shea Angela. And it's about time we got to the Weed City. I heard that from a lot of listeners. When are you coming to Brandon to do another show, Marcy? Well, here we are. We're so pleased. We've been here for a couple of days. In fact, we've got live shows today and tomorrow. We're going to switch locations. And yes, the Royal Manitoba Winter Fair is on. But we're also here to cover all things Brandon. Just to hear from people, to talk more with people who live here, and to find out more about how the Weed City is doing in 2026. So
Well,
next
this
on the show,
trade relationship has its perennial.
If you want to get to know a place,
Shocker,
you have
John.
to get to
It
know
talks
the people.
about supply
My next
management
guest did
and
exactly
milk
that
classes
here in
and
Brandon
cheese
for
standards.
2 years, looking
And
through the lens
the
of her
USTR
camera.
is still unhappy
Wai Chen
with
Zhang
how
is a
Canada
documentary
treats
photographer.
American
She
digital
started this
giants. Even though the
project
digital
when she
services
moved
tax has
here
been
from
repealed,
China.
it
She
objects
calls
to
her
Canada's
series of
online
photos
streaming
We
acts,
Are
the online
Brandon.
news
If you're
act,
watching on
French
YouTube, we're going to
language,
see
the
some of the
RTC
shots and stories
CanCon
come up. I'm actually
This
going
year,
to pull
it
up our
also
feed here
objects
so I
to the
can watch
government's
as
new
well.
push to
And
establish
you can see some of them as well on Brandon Tourism Web and social
also
sites.
now this
Thank
year,
you for
Canada's
coming,
more
Wai
recent
Chen.
retaliatory measures
It's so nice to meet
have become
you.
new targets. The Buy Canadian procurement policies to support targeted industries like steel, aluminum,
Oh, I love
lumber.
it. And for you telling us about yours,
Like
when
steel,
did you start
aluminum,
taking photos?
lumber. American jurisdictions have shut out Canadian companies with their Buy American policies for years, but shoes on the other foot now, and it's politically painful. This year's report also voices serious concerns about the pulling of U.S. booze by provincial liquor regulators, and it presses for this booze to be immediately and permanently returned.
Where else have you been
As the
shooting?
U.S. continues its Plan B investigations towards replacing the tariff struck down by the U.S. Supreme Court, this report says Canada does not appear to be effectively enforcing its own laws against allowing goods made with forced labor to enter its market. Now, human rights in the supply chain for Chinese EVs were a hot issue this week. Minister Dominic LeBlanc, though, seemed unconcerned that Canada's recent deal with China is going to cause new trouble with Washington.
Who drive the
We are-
economy, location,
Yeah.
and reach the history.
So your whole premise behind the project is, when we define cities and we look at the things you mentioned, geography, economy, but looking at the people is
yeah.
what really is what any city's about.
Yeah.
Have you been shooting then for 10 years other cities?
No,
No.
this is the first city.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. When you moved here, what was the benefit for you?
Yeah.
You must have met a lot of people by doing this. By taking their pictures.
Yeah, at the beginning, I just know one of my best friend, Amy, from Brandon Downtown Beach, and she introduced a lot of her friends, even though they're her family members to me, so I could know more and more people here, and also became my friends. So
Yeah.
I really appreciate, and so many more. So I will keep them in my mind, and I believe they will become my lifelong friends.
Yeah. When you do the project, how many photos did you take in 2 years?
I want to say I lost count how many photos, but it will over, I think, 2,000 photos. I will photograph right now it's 272 people. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Can you describe some of the people that you met? Or, with that many photos, it's hard, but we're looking at some of them now, for example, and it looks like you've caught people in their workplaces, their daily life. There's little captions. There's people in their homes holding cookies with, little gingerbread headbands. There looks like somebody here who might work in a dry cleaner.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me a bit about who you met.
I met a lot of people from different fields. Like this is the dog trailer. This is the artist. This project actually is my second project called Welcome to Brandon. Welcome to Brandon is a document portrait photographed project dedicated to promote our lovely city. And I'm honored to be the ambassador with the Brandon Tourism. They are the project partner. So because Yeah, a lot. You know why I started this project when I do the We Are Brandon, and I met a lot of amazing people, and they share a lot of how much they love here. But I think if they just share to me, I think that is too waste. So that's why I started here this project. I believe every person have their unique story. They from the different field. They are different age. They from the different jobs, countries, background, and I believe this story maybe is totally different, but one common thing is they both love here.
Yeah.
So I think each portrait is like the invitation, and we invited tourism and tourists and newcomer visit Brandon or come to Brandon, and it's to make them there as a home here, and to fall in love with this place as we did.
What I love about it is when you do look at all those people, as you said, no matter their ages or whatever, they have that commonality. It makes you feel good about your city. So how has Brandon been for you as a newcomer here?
That's a good question. Actually, at the beginning, that is a total different country for me, and a total different culture for me. At the beginning, because I'm a city girl, so when I come here, I feel this is a really quiet city, and everyone is really friendly. Even at the first time we meet each other, they also invite me to their workplace and their house. So I'm so surprised. And also I meet a lot of the amazing people, amazing friends. Even though the artists, they really friendly. It's beyond my expectation.
There's a good thriving art community here, isn't there?
Yeah, and right now I think I can't leave Brandon because I have putting down my root here, and I want to say Brandon is my second hand hometown, because I have already have a lot of the emotional tie here, and
love it.
I don't want to leave them.
Thank you so much for sharing about your project and showing your beautiful photos on CBC. We have one of our greatest photojournalists here actually with us, Prabjot Lote. The two of you, I think, are probably going to head off and have a good coffee and enjoy each other's work, I bet. But Wai Chen, thank you so much for being with us today in Brandon.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Wai Chen Zhang, who is a Brandonite now, as you heard. This is her second hometown, but she's a documentary photographer. Her series, We Are Brandon, can be viewed on Brandon Tourism website and social sites. And believe me, you'll want to check those out because they're very beautiful. We should do something like this in Winnipeg. Coming up on the show, we have much to tell you. I just saw the mayor walk in, so he's going to be sitting down with us to talk about the city's future, its challenges. Also, yes, the Royal Manitoba Winter Fair. You might have heard that health officials are there trying to educate people about measles vaccine. We're going to ask the mayor what he feels about that. Also, what are the challenges here in the downtown in Brandon, and where does he see that going? So that's all coming up with Brandon's mayor. Also, Corey has a beautiful story with a 3-generation family that's been working with horses for years, and they're at the Royal Manitoba Winter Fair. And then still ahead, a Nipawa food bank operator knows the challenges of helping survivors of gender-based violence firsthand. She says a lack of resources keep women from finding safety.
A lot of times, rural women stay in situations that they shouldn't be staying in for way longer than we would ever want them to be in. It's just because of all of those things. You're disrupting your children, or you're disrupting your social networks, your family, your friends.
CBC's Chelsea Camp spoke with some folks she met at the West Manitoba Women's Centre about their new report on rural gender-based violence, and she'll join us here in Brandon in the next hour. Heather Wells has that story and others in news this morning. What are your headlines today, Heather?
Good morning. Yes, a pharmacy manager has pleaded guilty to professional misconduct after an investigation found a kidney transplant patient didn't have vital medications for 2 months. And the Manitoba Federation of Labour is calling on the province to create a plan to lift full-time minimum wage earners out of poverty. We'll hear more in our next local news at 7:30.
All right. Thanks very much, Heather.
Thank you.
It is now 1 minute to 7 o'clock, and we have World World Report, the latest coming up on national and international news. If you want to call us, if you got a story about Brandon, we'd love to hear it. I just want to say welcome to April, everyone. We promise we won't fool you today with any of our stories in the next hour. Stay with us. You're on CBC.
On the Current.
A lot of parents keep a close eye on how much time their kids spend on their screens at home, but at school, teachers are turning to tools like YouTube and iPad games.
Have some fun, count to 100 by one.
And there aren't actually guidelines for those teachers to follow. We'll talk about that coming up on The Current.
The Current with Matt Galloway. This morning at 8:37, 9:07 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app.
This is World Report. Good morning, I'm John Northcott. People in Tel Aviv rush into an underground shelter. The sound of air raid sirens and the scramble to seek safety for many has now become a daily ritual. The attacks between Israel and Iran continue, even as U.S. President Donald Trump maintains that an end to the war is mere weeks away. Megan Williams has more from Dubai.
Explosions lit up Tehran overnight. Israel confirming it carried out the strikes, targeting missile production sites with power cuts reported in the Iranian capital. Across the Gulf, Saudi Arabia and Bahrain intercepted drones with a fuel depot at Kuwait's airport hit. President Trump says the U.S. could be out of the war within just a few weeks, telling reporters at the White House that the war has brought regime change in Iran and has blocked the country from having nuclear weapons.
But we're finishing the job, and I think within maybe 2 weeks, maybe a couple of days longer to do the job. But we want to knock out every single thing they have. Now, it's possible that we'll make a deal before that.
Trump has also made clear the Strait of Hormuz will no longer be Washington's problem, saying countries that rely on it for oil will have to fend for themselves. He'll give a televised address to the nation tonight. Secretary of State Marco Rubio told Fox News the U.S. will re-examine the NATO alliance after the war, frustrated that Spain closed its airspace to U.S. military flights and Italy blocked U.S. bombers from landing.
Or is it now become a one-way street where America is simply in a position to defend Europe, but when we need the help of our allies, they're going to deny us basing rights and they're going to deny us overflight?
Iran's foreign minister says his country is prepared for at least 6 more months of war as gas prices in the U.S. surged above $4 a gallon for the first time since 2022. Megan Williams, CBC News, Dubai.
Explosions rock Beirut overnight. Israel's military says it carried out 2 separate attacks on the southern suburbs of the Lebanese capital. The targets, a Hezbollah commander and another senior member of the Iran-aligned group. Lebanon's health ministry says at least 7 people were killed. Canada's finance minister is on a mission to China. François-Philippe Champagne is meeting with government and business officials in an effort to fortify Canada's economy. Champagne made it clear that Ottawa wants to build its trade partnership with Beijing.
I think, when we're talking about diversifying our trading relationship, Canadians understand that Canada is no different than other G7 partners. Everyone has found a strategic way to engage with China. China is the second largest economy and our second largest trading partner. So you have to engage.
Champagne's 2-day trip follows a visit by Mark Carney in January. That led to a new partnership that will allow 49,000 Chinese EVs into Canada and lowering or lifting Chinese tariffs on many Canadian agricultural products like canola. Alberta's government says it wants what it describes as neutrality in the classrooms, and it says its latest education bill will do just that by ensuring teachers offer, quote, balanced lessons. The bill is called an act to remove politics and ideology from classrooms. Sam Sampson has more on the sweeping changes and the concerns from educators.
This bill reflects that schools should teach students how to think,
not what to think.
Alberta's Education Minister Dimitrios Nikolaides lays out proposed changes to Alberta's Education Act. In part, the bill pushes educators to refrain from issuing what it calls statements on political, social, or ideological matters. The changes would also require teachers to be, quote, impartial in their lessons.
We need to take steps to ensure that it's being presented with balance and that diverse viewpoints are being brought forward.
The bill notes only approved flags like Alberta's or Canada's can appear in schools. And while third-party groups still need provincial clearance to come and teach sex ed or gender identity, religious entities would be completely exempt.
There's no nice way to express how utterly terrifying and horrifying that is.
Glynis Lieb is with the Firefly Institute for Sexual and Gender Diversity, a nonprofit education and advocacy group for the 2S LGBTQ+ community.
I'm old enough to have taken sex ed in the 90s. Like, this is back to the abstinence and marriage are the only way kind of perspective. Like, this isn't about education, it's about ideology.
Since last fall's province-wide teacher strike, Alberta's education system has been in the spotlight, the main issues being classroom complexity and teacher salaries. The Alberta Teachers Association says it was not consulted and suggests the changes won't actually address issues teachers deal with in the classroom. Sam Sampson, CBC News, Edmonton.
It's costing Canadians a lot more to celebrate Easter and Passover this year. The rising cost of food and fuel is taking its toll on the celebrations. Higher prices also affecting religious organizations that cook and deliver meals to those in need. Yasmin Renea has more.
That's the sound of the busy kitchen at the Beth Tikva Synagogue in BC's Lower Mainland, where volunteers are racing to prepare and deliver Passover meals to hundreds of people in need.
That's not a small amount when you're talking about Seder meals, food hampers.
Rabbi Susan Tendler says the task is even more difficult this year because of rising costs. The war in the Middle East and disruptions in the Strait of Hormuz have made food and gas more expensive in Canada.
When you have all of those things working together is just a hard situation, because it shouldn't also be just you have the bare minimum. In addition, it's our holiday of freedom and redemption, so you want people to feel free and joyous.
The challenges are also being felt in churches as they prepare for Easter.
I feel pressure to make our money go further.
Barbara Inglis with Richmond Presbyterian Church says donations are down because of the high cost of living.
The congregations are also strapped within their own families, and they're aging, and so their income is fixed. It's really hard for them to give more than they already do.
Faith organizations say donations from food banks and farmers are offsetting some of the costs, and that they will find ways to make it work, because for them, that's what the holidays are about. Yasmin Ghanaya, CBC News, Richmond, BC.
The bustling sounds of New Delhi, India. The country is embarking on the world's largest census starting today. Counting of India's more than 1.4 billion population is expected to take a year. The once-in-a-decade survey was supposed to be carried out in 2021, but was delayed because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Economist Mitali Nikor says that the data is particularly important for infrastructure investments.
Because with infrastructure investments, you have high capital expenditure. You cannot afford to go wrong. And in many cases, because of the census not getting done on time, we might be planning for a smaller population, even though our coverage has to be higher.
India surpassed China as the world's most populous nation 3 years ago. More than 3 million officials will be involved in carrying out the census. Finally, Canadian Jeremy Hansen is among the 4 humans who could break free from Earth's orbit later today. The launch window for Artemis 2 opens just before 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. The mission is the next step towards returning humans to the surface of the moon. Nicole Martellaro is in Florida for the launch.
3, 2, 1. Boosters in ignition.
4 astronauts will strap into their seats later today on a mission that will take them around the moon. It will be the first mission to our closest neighbor in 53 years. Jeff Spaulding is NASA's senior test director.
We've had some challenges. The team has done an outstanding job managing each and every one of those throughout many different scenarios. People are excited and ready to go on this first chapter on our way back to the moon since the 1970s. So we're very excited.
This is a big step for not only the return to the moon, but also for Canada, and especially for Jeremy Hansen. who has been waiting patiently since being selected in 2009 by the Canadian Space Agency. Hansen has fit in well with his American crewmates, helping to make up a cohesive team who are not only ready to test out the Orion spacecraft on its almost 10-day mission, but also to pave the way for the next astronauts who will walk on the surface of the moon. Canada's contribution to space was noted by President of the Canadian Space Agency, Lisa Campbell, on Tuesday.
We are thrilled to be here, and this builds on decades of investment by Canada, in addition to the training by our astronaut. Canada has been a partner with the United States for over 50 years in space, and now we're about to launch humans to the moon.
Now Hansen has only hours to wait ahead of the scheduled launch, to be the first Canadian to travel beyond Earth orbit. Nicole Mortellero, CBC News, Cape Canaveral, Florida.
And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. For news anytime, including the latest on the Artemis launch, go to our website, cbcnews.ca. I'm John Northcott. This is CBC News.
So you just tell me what you're doing right now.
So I'm grooming a horse to get ready for his road hack class. So he has to be super clean, and we paint his feet when he goes out. My son is putting his bridle on. As you can see beforehand, his mane is braided.
And who's this guy? What's his name?
His name is Swayze.
After Patrick Swayze?
After Patrick Swayze. Yeah.
He kind of looks like a ghost a little bit.
Yeah, he does. Hi, my name is Erin Anderson. I'm from Brandon, Manitoba. I'm the owner, manager, coach of Pine Castle Equestrian. We're located just outside of Brandon. My husband and I and our 4 children and now grandchildren are competing. I'm carrying on a family tradition that started with my grandparents showing Clydesdales. And you're listening to Information Radio, live from Brandon, Manitoba, on CBC Radio 1.
That is right, and we're going to hear more about her family story coming up in our special show from Brandon, so stay with us. I'm Marcy Marcusa. We're live at Chez Angela. A huge thank you to James and Angela Chambers, who had us here at their bakery cafe, or have us here for the full morning. It's our community studio on 10th Street in downtown Brandon. We're on 97.9 FM or 89.3 FM in Winnipeg. Well, this hour on the show, in addition to hearing that multi-generational story from the Royal Manitoba Winter Fair, which is taking over the Keystone Centre and is on right now, we have much more coming up from Brandon, including a discussion with the mayor. Jeff Fawcett is here with us to talk about the city's future, also its challenges, and much more about downtown, where we are this morning. Thanks for joining us. Special edition of InfoRad. I also want to mention Chelsea Kemp's going to be here. She is one of our Brandon reporters here, stationed here year-round, telling the news in Brandon and the stories here. She has a story today about the Western Manitoba Women's Centre. They want to talk about something that is still taboo for a lot of people, gender-based violence. They just completed a study, and they put out their report just last week. This is rural communities who told them what needs to change, what they need. So communities all around Brandon. It took nearly 2 years to visit those communities, so we'll hear the very latest of that report when Brandon's Chelsea Kemp joins us just before 8 o'clock. Right now, Heather Wells is back in Winnipeg with our news headlines of the day otherwise. Good morning, Heather.
Good morning. Well, Manitoba is reviewing a decision to allow its prairie counterparts to use a highly toxic poison on ground squirrels. Strychnine was banned across the country 2 years ago. Alberta and Saskatchewan this week got federal approval to use it again to help farmers whose crops are getting destroyed by the ground squirrel infestation. So we'll hear what Manitoba would like to do. We'll also hear from an animal justice lawyer coming up. And the Manitoba Federation of Labor is calling on the province to create a plan to lift minimum wage earners out of poverty. President Kevin Rebeck says the minimum wage falls short of what Manitoba workers need. I'll be back with more news coming up at 7:30.
All right. Thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
Really similar forecast for Winnipeg and Brandon, and then Thompson's going to be warmer than southern Manitoba. Thompson, sun cloud, 2 degrees today. Brandon is going to be right around -1 today, and in Winnipeg it's going to be 1 degree. Here in Brandon, increasing clouds, some fog patches. It looks pretty cloudy out there and actually pretty foggy already to start the day. I can just see through the window of Chez Angela across 10th, and it looks like over the Assiniboine we've got some low-lying fog. That should dissipate a little bit later this morning, and as I said, a high in Brandon here, -1. Winnipeg with increasing cloud and 1 degree, and winds there are going to be about 20 to 40 from the south, and then tonight mainly cloudy, low down to -4 in Winnipeg. Tomorrow, in case you're curious, we're going to be right around 0, so it's not like we're going to have a fast melt, but we'll get there. It is April 1st, it is spring break, and that means just be careful because there could be just more traffic than you're used to. Less traffic in terms of those morning rushes sometimes on spring break, but then later in the day things get busier. So watch for that and call us if you see any problems, either in your city or on the highway. 788-3093 is where you can call us. Well, as we mentioned, our special broadcast in Brandon this morning is part of Communities in Focus, where we really just come out to your city or your town and we try to listen. We try to listen to what stories you want to be told. We try to share a perspective of the community we're in to the rest of the province. And so we find ourselves here at Chez Angela, a vibrant cafe in the Bass Building downtown. Everything they make here is local. I mean, really, down to the flour being milled somewhere at a town, local butter in the croissants. They are relentlessly proud about Brandon. We're going to talk to them still ahead in the next hour of the show. So a lot of folks know this place and support this place. And Corey Funk from CBC is about to head over to a table to talk to a couple of people who are eating here this morning.
Hi, Marcy. Yeah, so I've assembled a small panel here of 3 Brandonites who are here for coffee this morning. So I've got with me here Kelsey Penner, as well as Colleen Nickel and Harold Doran this morning. No relation between any of them. They all just happen to be here this morning. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
So, Kelsey, I want to start with you. So you're a lifelong Brandonite. You left for a while. Yep. And then you came back. What brought you back to Brandon after leaving?
Well, my family, first of all. I think Brandon is a great size of city. I've enjoyed my teaching career here, and I like the nature of it being the town surrounded by lots of community and smaller towns with different character.
How's it changed since you were young?
Oh, it's changed a lot, I would say. I think there's a big increase in diversity in town now, which is wonderful to see. There's a lot of... It's always been a walkable and friendly kind of city, but I'm really enjoying the increase in culture and opportunity here for lots of different people.
And speaking of walkable city, actually, Kelsey, Colleen, you actually don't own a car. You walk everywhere.
Everywhere. I'm pretty old school, so.
And what's that like for you?
Well, I really like it. Yeah, it's it takes a long time to get places, but
like if you have an event across town, like do you just like budget 2 hours to just make your way across? Like how does that work in a city like Brandon, which is still, by and large, I think a car city, kind of like Winnipeg.
Yeah. Well, I walked down the middle of the road on the way here today because I do that quite a bit because of the ice. But and I'll be honest, I've kind of quit walking at night just because of the crime, and I used to find an excuse to walk to anywhere, and I think maybe not. I guess that's everywhere though.
I mean, we do have the mayor just across the room here, but what would you like to see to make the city more walkable?
They've taken steps though. They've got police cruising around downtown and stuff like that, so I think they're aware of it.
So safety is your biggest concern more than infrastructure?
Pretty much, yeah. I've had quite a few break-ins. I live in the core area, so I've had a home invasion and several break-ins, and it gets scary. I grew up in the day when you didn't even have to lock your door, so.
So you feel like Brandon is maybe not as safe as it once was?
Oh, for sure it's not, but I don't think anywhere is.
And finally here, Harold, you moved here. You were originally a farmer. You moved to Brandon. You've been here for 30 years now. And what do you love about the city?
It's just a big, small town. And I bike. I like to bike. I bike around a lot, and it's a great place to do that. So,
yeah. Has cycling infrastructure gotten better for you?
Yeah, it has. Yeah, it's pretty decent. Yeah, and I find the drivers are generally pretty good. They're patient and kind, and yeah.
And it's going to be one kind of. I'll give you like 20 seconds each here. What's your hope for Brandon? For Brandon's future?
I hope it continues to grow. I hope people continue to make it their home and have multi-generations living and enjoying it.
What about you, Colleen?
Well, it's a bit of a lost cause, but I have hopes for downtown Brandon. I worked downtown years ago, and it was so fun. There was restaurants and dress shops, and now it's just a disaster. But I think downtown's everywhere in the same dilemma, and what can we do?
And Harold?
It's continuing to grow, and under our mayor right now, I'm pleased with what's happening. He's doing a pretty good job, I think. Yeah.
Well, we'll leave it there. Thank you guys so much, and back to you there, Mars.
Thank you very much, Corey. Corey's here at Chez Angela Bakery and Cafe, and we're in the Bass Building in downtown Brandon on 10th Street. And the business owners here are also hoping for more vibrancy to grow in this downtown. We're going to talk to the mayor about that and more in just a moment. So the mayor is Jeff Fawcett. He's been listening in to those folks Corey was talking to who were on our impromptu panel, just pretty much having breakfast here at a local table here at the local cafe Chez Angela. Mayor Fawcett, good morning to you.
Good morning to you, Marcy.
Thanks for having us here in Brandon.
Yeah, it's great to have you out here.
Yeah, so let's start with downtown because everyone's talking about downtown. Mm-hmm. Some strong language there from the panel, of course, that was just an impromptu panel, said they feel like it's a bit of a lost cause, but wouldn't like to say that because they like to see it grow, worries about crime, worries about vacancy. So let's start with the challenges and then look at where the hope is in downtown in the future. What do you think? What are the biggest challenges in your view?
Well, the challenges are the same as any downtown. In that, years ago, a lot of people left. We had a big detraction with COVID, which was unfortunate because we were on an upswing, definitely. But I'll tell you, there's a pile of positives. Obviously, we just had a report come out from the police that the numbers for incidents and items downtown are way down in Brandon. So statistically, it is much better than it has been in the last few years even.
One of the business owners said to me that they feel like downtown isn't unsafe, but it is uncomfortable still, and they would like to change the perception. So it kind of matches what you're saying.
Yeah, it's a population thing. So we have, with CMHC taking a little bit of time, there's about almost 200 units that should be built in the next little while downtown that are market units, waiting through CMHC, and that was also part of our federal funding for housing, so the housing accelerator. So that should be hopefully coming through soon. We're doing an awful lot of things. There's a good, serious look at our library and art gallery and some items that are going on there. And again, I have discussions with people regularly. I'm downtown because the office is downtown, and I have lots of meetings here, so I walk it quite regularly. And I'll run into people that will say, I don't go downtown ever. A little bit just like the person that just spoke, who is downtown currently right now, and they'll say, "Oh, I never go downtown." And I think, you know what? I think we speak at the YMCA every day, and it is in the heart of downtown.
Yeah, when you look out here on 10th,
so it's a very block-specific thing.
When you look out down here on 10th Street and you look across, we were doing that earlier, and you were actually looking at a building over there
that's coming down.
You were saying something's going to come down there. How much is what else is new then? Let's look at the positives that are going to change around here in terms of housing or businesses.
Well, just across, we can actually see it as well. The longest build that's ever taken place, but it is the new private pickleball courts. Which is 30,000 square feet, and that's going to drive a whole different audience
to come here
down here. And I do have to mention things like the YMCA that has thousands of people go through the door every day.
Yeah.
The library, like our main downtown library, that has again hundreds and hundreds of people going through it all the time. Great children's programs.
So you're not unlike Winnipeg at all. You just need to work on getting some new investors and some housing.
Perception is a bit of an issue, but you know what? There is. The truth is, we need to draw more people down with things. So Chez Angela's an anchor. We have a number of other little restaurants and such, but it has changed since the 80s. Like Eaton's is not here anymore.
Yeah. If you go that far back, for sure. Let's talk about some other things in Brandon. So I want to ask you about the Royal Manitoba Winter Fair.
Yeah.
Obviously, a huge driver of the of tourism here in the economy. Big over spring break always. And as you know, measles this year a concern. There's public health officers. Yep. How do you feel about public health officials being on site right now? They're doing doing education, and they're also doing shots right on site. I think.
Yeah, I think you can have the shots right on site. So yeah, that's with Prairie Mountain Health, and I think we've tried to communicate that as much as possible. Like really, this is a vaccine thing, almost eradicated. The doctor I was on the CBC with not that long ago. In the last 25 years up to this year, 18 cases in Manitoba. We almost eradicated it.
Yes.
Brandon has not had an issue other than when we have some of our great big events that bring people from all over. But the day-to-day has not been. It's as simple as that. If you're vaccinated and following public health orders, everything's fine, just like it's always been.
Are you worried about it at all, or are you? How do you frame for yourself as mayor the fact that this is happening at the same time as one of the biggest drivers, tourism drivers in Brandon?
Well, I'm there every day, so I have zero fear. But I had zero fear last year, the year before, because things like measles are not a concern for me, because my mom did a lot of research on her own when we were young and went to her doctor, and her doctor suggested getting a measles vaccine. That was enough for her. It's proven to be good for 50 some years. And so everybody that I was there with last year, everybody that I see, all the Brandonites that I know that go out there, don't worry about it, because we have such a high vaccination rate that we don't think about measles.
Are you worried it's going to affect the attendance at the fair though?
No, it hasn't the first few days. And again, I'm not worried about those people that are going that are vaccinated, because they're going the same as they did last year.
Yep.
If you're unvaccinated, be conscious of the fact that you are the one that's likely going to get measles.
Two more minutes with Brandon Mayor Jeff Fawcett. So I want to cover two things. So one of them is Shiloh, because there's a lot of defense spending right now. There's been an announcement that's already come that there's going to be new housing coming to Shiloh. Yeah. What else do you understand about how Shiloh, which is just really a bedroom community, if you will, military community outside of Brandon, the base, about how much it could grow or benefit? What can you tell us?
I know quite a bit. I know a lot, and I can tell you a little.
Okay.
It's Canadian military. But yeah, $83-85 million was just announced for additional housing. We're well aware that is not going to be enough housing to do what they need. So Brandon has to be playing a role. We work really regularly with the Lieutenant Colonel on the base, with all the regiments that are out there.
Can you verify or not if they're going to add military personnel to the base? If there are any plans to do that moving forward that could increase the population, and then maybe the housing will follow as well?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if I'm officially able to verify that, but we're going to jump to conclusions here with $83 million of additional housing on the base. So I'm assuming they're going to put people in those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How much of an issue is housing overall in Brandon, just because we're talking about
significant.
That? How significant?
We're pretty much at a 0% vacancy if you're trying to get something. We have very few houses on the market. Now, that being said, we had 400 new builds there last year. We're building apartments and condos like they're going out of style, but you can't. They can't build them fast enough. As a matter of fact, the issue we've had a few different times is people need in these so fast that we've had to give occupancy before parking lots are even done. So it causes us a bit of grief on the roads, because people can't park in a parking lot yet, just because the urgency. But we're doing that. We're keeping up. Housing is going to open up quite a bit more this year, because we did get one of the lift stations in the newer area of the city that had infrastructure issues.
Okay.
So that's across the city. So that's why we're making major investments, like with water, wastewater. We're making major investments.
We're going to have to leave our conversation there. And I know for a city of 50,000 plus, it's a lot to get through in 5 minutes. But now you know how the mayor of Winnipeg feels when we have the same amount of time. Thank you, Jeff Fawcett. I appreciate you being here, and thanks for having CBC here.
Right on. Awesome. I love it. Always good to have you out here.
Nice to see you. That's Jeff Fawcett, the mayor of the city of Brandon. And unfortunately, Brandon, your Wheat Kings lost last night in Verdun. They're playing there because of the fair, and of course, the arena's tied up for that. They did lose. They got one more game, though. It's on Thursday. It's still in Verdun. Let's get caught up on the rest of sports and find out about the Jets. They did win last night. They're just 1 point back of a playoff spot. So can they get it done after this season? Wow. If they could, that'd be something. Paul McGowan's here to tell us more. Good morning.
Good morning, Marcy. Yeah, it's been an incredible run for the Jets. They were stuck forever at 5 points back of a wild card spot. Now they are within one, as you say, but it is a messy wild card race. The LA Kings are also just 1 point back. The Sharks and Kraken are 2 back, and they both have games in hand. So no guarantees still, but credit to the Jets for climbing back into this race. Josh Morrissey talked last night about the fact that the Olympic break helped everyone get on the same page. So should be a fun end of the season, and it continues tomorrow night. The team is in Dallas. And speaking of on the ice, another very good day for Matt Dunstone at the World Men's Curling Championship. Back-to-back wins for him, including over Nick Edin and Sweden.
Let's talk about tennis next. We saw a big win for a Canadian yesterday in South Carolina, Paul.
And it's been easy these last few years, Marcy, to forget about Bianca Andreescu, in part because of standout performances by other Canadians. But Andreescu has not been winning. She has not been healthy. And so in response, she did something kind of unconventional, demoted herself to the lower-ranked ITF tour. She said that she wanted to play a lot, and she wanted to be less comfortable. All of it paid off yesterday. A win at the Charleston Open, her first WTA win in 8 months.
That time off helped me develop new hobbies. I love music, so I've been creating my own music on SoundCloud. Hit me up. It's a nice outlet to get away from all the craziness sometimes. And also a big thing for me has been just developing great relationships in my life, because at the end of the day, tennis is gonna leave me, but the relationships you have are very important.
Marcy, really quickly, I would not be a responsible journalist if I didn't go digging for Bianca Andreescu's SoundCloud, and so...
Oh yeah, let's hear this.
This has been stuck in my head all morning. Credit to Bianca Andreescu, budding music producer, and oh yes, she plays in the round of 32 today at the Charleston Open.
All right, Paul, thanks very much.
Thanks, Marcy.
We're going to have to tune into more of that. We are live in Brandon at Chez Angelo on 10th Street in downtown Brandon. I'm Marcy Marcusa with a special edition of the show. Stay tuned. Coming up right after your local news, her family's trained horses here in Brandon for 70 years. Now she's training her 12-year-old granddaughter to compete at the Royal Manitoba Winter Fair, which is on all week. That's coming up, a feature interview after your CBC News from Manitoba.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 7:31, it is -9. It's April Fool's, but this is no joke. We are still stuck well below normal. The normal high is 6 today. We're hoping for a 1. Increasing clouds with just a bit of a southeast wind. A new study from a Brandon Women's Centre paints a stark picture for rural Manitobans experiencing gender-based violence. It says services are few and far between, while stigmas still persist. The report outlines several things that can help, including boosting local trauma-informed care and advocacy. Amanda Nightingale is with Nipaw's Salvation Army Food Bank. She says it can take time to get people the help they need.
A lot of times, rural women stay in situations that they shouldn't be staying in for way longer than we would ever want them to be in, just because of all of those things. You're disrupting your children, or you're disrupting your social networks.
Brandon Women's Centre plans to use the report to develop and enhance services and outreach in rural areas. You can hear more on this story coming up in this next half hour right here on Information Radio. Manitoba is reviewing a decision to allow its prairie counterparts to use a highly toxic poison on ground squirrels. Strychnine was banned across the country 2 years ago. Alberta and Saskatchewan got federal approval this week to use it again. It is to help farmers whose crops are getting destroyed by ground squirrel infestations. Animal justice lawyer Alexandra Pester wants the decision reversed. She argues strychnine causes severe and prolonged suffering before death.
The federal and provincial governments should be working with farmers to research and implement responsible and effective and humane methods to protect crops, not bowing to cruel band-aid solutions proposed.
Canada's Pest Management Regulatory Agency warns strychnine also poses risks to other animals. A spokesperson for Manitoba's Ag Minister says they are trying to figure out if it's needed here and whether the province should also ask for an exemption. The Manitoba Federation of Labour is calling on the province to create a plan to lift minimum wage earners out of poverty. President Kevin Rebeck says the minimum wage falls short of what Manitoba workers need. Manitoba's minimum is set to rise 40 cents an hour to $16.40 on October 1st. The MFL points to calculations by the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives showing workers in Winnipeg need to earn more than $19 an hour just to meet their basic needs. A pharmacy manager has pleaded guilty to professional misconduct. Mohammed Abdelhamid managed a Shoppers Drug Mart pharmacy in Morden between 2021 and 2022. The College of Pharmacists of Manitoba has ordered him to pay $15,000 in fines and costs. It launched an investigation after a kidney transplant patient complained they were without vital medications for 2 months. The caller says that delay was caused by the pharmacy, which sent refill authorization forms to the wrong hospital twice. Leaving Earth.
3, 2, 1. Boosters in ignition. And liftoff of Artemis 1.
And if all goes according to plan, that scene is going to be replicated in Cape Canaveral, Florida later today. And unlike that 2022 launch of Artemis 1, the sequel will have humans on board, and one of them is a Canadian. Jeremy Hansen is one of the crew as Artemis 2 is slated to go around the moon. The 10-day Artemis 2 mission is aimed at paving the way for Artemis 3. It is scheduled to launch next year and would see humans walking on the moon for the first time since 1972. You can hear more on that story coming up on World Report at 8. A Winnipeg wrestling star wrestles in his hometown tonight for the first time in 3 years.
Winged Angel!
Surgery and recovery from diverticulitis kept Kenny Omega out of the ring from late 2023 until the beginning of 2025. He wasn't able to wrestle the last time All Elite Wrestling was in Winnipeg, but says he now feels the best he has in a long time.
The past few occasions in Winnipeg especially, I was dealing with my diverticulitis issues. And that was a scary situation for me because I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to be in a position to ever do anything physical in the world of professional wrestling. So it really is almost a celebration.
Omega grew up in Transcona. He will have friends and family tonight at Canada Life Centre. Well, just 1 point away.
Mark Sedley, Connor shoots and scores!
Kyle Connor just 33 seconds into overtime on TSN there for a Winnipeg win in Chicago. Head coach Scott Arniel says as they get closer to that wild card spot, his team can't take their foot off the gas.
It doesn't get any easier with going into Dallas and then Columbus, so a lot of heavy lifting still to go, and we got to make sure that continue to do those things that keep us in games and that give us a chance to win.
So as the coach said, the Jets are in Dallas tomorrow. You can find more news updated throughout the day at cbc.ca/Manitoba.
I can't believe they're this close. Oh, I hope so.
Just
after all
a
this.
point. Can you imagine? There
No.
was a time when we didn't think we'd ever get this close.
Yeah, for obvious reasons. It was dismal, man. This is crazy. So go Jets, go.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
We've asked you on Facebook as we're broadcasting live our community studio, Chez Angela Bakery and Cafe. Thanks to James Chambers and his wife Angela for having us here and all the staff that got up early to let CBC in. We're asking you on Facebook as we're especially broadcasting from the Wheat City, fill in the blank. And here's what I did. I said Wheat Kings and pretty things and what? So fill in the blank. And also, what do Manitobans get wrong about this city? It's your chance, Brandonites. Weigh in. We're here for 2 days. You can get your answers in there. We'll read some of those comments as well as the show continues here. Right now, though, let's get into our regional forecast as we dip into the day. So outside, why don't we start in Brandon? Outside our window here at Chez Angela on 10th in downtown Brandon, we're looking at some low-lying fog over the Assiniboine. Not too bad, though. Pretty solidly cloudy sky. For you today here in Brandon, we're expecting that fog to dissipate later. Our high is going to be -1. Winds will be 20 to 40, gusting from the south. And then tonight, low down to -6. Tomorrow, cloudy and 0. In Winnipeg, really similar. Partly cloudy right now. It's -9. And you're going to get to about 1 degree in Winnipeg today with the winds south 20 to 40. Tonight, low -4. Tomorrow, high 1 degree. Should mention currently in Brandon, it is -17. So is that correct? I'm going to just double check my math here. That is correct. It's not my math, it's the temperature, but -17. So a lot colder than Winnipeg. And then speaking of things that are not cold, but usually colder than down south altogether, we have in Thompson today a high of 2 degrees. So it's going to be really nice in Thompson today. Currently it is partly cloudy, -11. You're going to have a 30% chance of flurries. Tonight down to low -14, and tomorrow your high is 2 with lots of sunshine. Well, part of the reason we chose this week to be in Brandon is because, April 1st, spring break, and that means in these parts, the Royal Manitoba Winter Fair. It really is a logistical miracle that this can happen, or maybe just a lot of people with a lot of experience over the fair's 120 years in Westman. It's huge, 540,000 square feet, the sprawling Keystone Center, and all of the barns and animals and arenas and displays and places where you're going to get your corn dog and mini donuts, which, yes, I did yesterday. When you walk in there, the main attraction, though, is, of course, celebrating the way of life in rural Manitoba, the ag way of life. Humans on horses jumping over obstacles. But beneath the Keystone Center is where those hundreds of horses spend their week here at the fair, and their trainers spend a lot of time down there too. Corey Funk was there yesterday talking to a family that's been training horses for generations.
Well, we are here in what might look like some kind of lush garden, but we're actually in the bowels of the Keystone Center here in Brandon for the Royal Winter Fair. And that is where Pine Castle, which is where Erin Anderson and her granddaughter, Valerie Stewart, train and compete horses here at the Royal Manitoba Winter Fair. So this is where they're getting their horses ready for competition. I'm actually here with them right now. Hi there, Erin. Hi, Valerie. And this is also one of their horses, one of the 10 horses that is here, actually. This is RSH Galveston. Oh, sorry there, buddy. So just to start here, Erin, so what's amazing is that your family has been competing here at the Winter Fair for 70 years. So what's your earliest memory of competing, with horses?
I started off on a small little Welsh pony named Buckshot. I was probably 9 years old, and following in my mother's footsteps, doing saddle pony, hunter pony, and a few other jumping classes. So that's where it all began for me.
And what about you, Valerie? How did it begin for you?
I came on a little pony named Dice. He was a black and white paint, and I remember just doing some nice costume classes with him in the big ring over there with my 2 aunts.
And what, growing up, because your family's been doing horse competitions for a long time, as I mentioned. What was it like for you? Because you're 12 now. Yeah. How long you been riding for?
I've been riding basically since I turned 1. So.
And did you feel any pressure as a young person with a family of such a strong, dynasty, living, as a family that's been competing at the fair for so long?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. As when you're younger, it's not as much. When you get older and start jumping a bit bigger, it gets more pressureful.
And what's it like for you, Erin, to see, because I know your daughter also competes and now your granddaughter's competing. What's that like for you?
Oh, it gives me an enormous sense of pride and happiness in carrying on the family tradition. My sister also used to compete, and then she's moved to a larger center and isn't able to do that anymore. So it's kind of my family, and we're carrying on the horse power legacy of the Moores, first of all, and then the Andersons, and now the DeCourts and Stewarts, and yeah.
And what is it that you love about it? Clearly, the horses are beautiful, but what's what's made your family not only just get into it in the first place, but stick with it? And what is it the horses that keep you together in a certain way?
Oh yeah, it's definitely the horse itself.
Yeah, but what is it about the horses?
I don't know. They just kind of get into your heart and into your blood, and I can't imagine not having horses in my life. Yeah, they're just.
What do they do for you personally?
It's just you get to enjoy just even caring for them, and this isn't why. It's an enormous part of it, but just the daily care of them, they become part of your family. It's just like lots of people feel their dogs are part of their family. Well, we feel our horses are our family members too. So it's just part of our bloodline.
And what for you, Valerie? What's it like, being able to learn from your grandmother, and what do the horses do for your relationship?
It's really nice being able to learn stuff from a family member, especially because you feel a connection doing that. And the horses, even though I'm not with them constantly, they just have a connection, and they make you bond with them. And then you just build up more and more connection with each horse you go with. And then it just it gets into you, and then you have emotional connections to them. It's really nice.
I think also she's your grandmother, but she's also your coach. So when it's family, is she could be a bit more straightforward with you, I guess.
Yeah.
And have you ever had to compete against because it's not always based on age totally, I don't think, right? No. So have you ever had to compete against each other?
No, I've had to compete against my aunts and uncles when they're on their younger horses, but it's.
And what's that like? Have you ever beaten your aunts and uncles?
No, I have not.
But I understand you, Erin. So this year you're coaching, but you of course competed lots in the past.
Yes.
Have you ever been bested by your offspring?
Yes, I definitely have, and that was actually one of my proudest moments was when I was competing at the Winter Fair in a very large jumper class, and I was leading right up until the last horse, which happened to be her father, my son, and he walked into the ring, and he went clear, and he was faster than I was. So that was kind of an amazing moment for me. It was just wow, I was so proud of him, and
never been more proud to lose.
Yeah, exactly. That's a really, really good way to put it, Corey.
And just this event in general, the Royal Winter Fair, you don't realize how big an event it is really until you're here. Not only is the Keystone Center itself massive,
yes,
but what does this event mean to the horse community in and around Brandon?
Yeah, it's probably the biggest hunter jumper show in the province, and this year they have a record number of hunter jumpers here competing. We're I think close to 170 horses here from Manitoba, Saskatchewan, and Alberta, and so the quality of horses is really high. So you have to be on your A game to be able to come here and be competitive.
Anything else you guys want to add? Wish I'd asked it all. And yourself, just what do you love about horses?
I love having a bond with them, a connection. They're one of your best friends if you really get a really close bond to your horses. And just competing and caring for them in general, it's one of the best things you'll experience in life.
And yourself.
Yeah, it's. I can't imagine a day not getting up and having a horse to take care of.
Mr. Galveston, what about you? No, you just want to smell the mic. That's okay too. I get it. You've been a busy guy. And just tell us a little about this horse. Tell him, RSH Galveston.
He's a 5-year-old. This is his first year at the fair. So far, he's been doing really well. He's picked up ribbons in quite a few classes already, even though this is the first day of the show. So we're looking really forward to high hopes for him for this summer, and because we generally not just compete here in Manitoba, but also go to Alberta for the summer. So he's going to be a really nice horse.
And for you, finally, what's it like knowing that there's another whole generation of people interested in horses from your family? It's probably something you couldn't. Yeah.
Reassuring that it will continue on, and there'll be someone to take care of my farm and my horses. Yeah.
Well, thank you both. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much.
So that was Erin Anderson, the owner of a Pine Castle Equestrian, and her granddaughter, Valerie Stewart, talking with CBC's Corey Funk in the barns beneath the Keystone Centre here in Brandon at the Royal Manitoba Winter Fair. If you want to check it out, of course, it is on all week.
Hi, I'm Elamaya Tailfeathers. I am an actor and filmmaker. I am defending A Minor Chorus by Billy Ray Belcourt in this year's Canada Reads One Book to Build Bridges. It encourages us to reflect on the places that we come from, where we can be tolerant and celebrate difference and embrace others in a way that I hope we can in the future in this country.
Canada Reads. It all starts April 13th. For more, go to cbcbooks.ca.
Okay, coming up after 8 o'clock, there were so many entries into our contest. We asked you to call us or write to us a couple of lines from your very favorite book, and that was for a chance to win a prize pack of all of the books, the shortlist, the finalists for Canada Reads, so all 5 books autographed by the authors. So now you know why we got so many entries. We will announce our winner here on Information Radio coming up live after 8 o'clock. Also coming up after 8 o'clock on the program this morning. If you remember Alessio's Pasta and the Strand Theatre, then you've been to downtown Brandon. But today, this city's core is facing challenges, not unlike what we're up against in Winnipeg. What is the way forward? We have a business panel coming up to talk about what is happening now and what could be happening soon. So stay tuned. That's all live from Brandon right after 8 o'clock. Right now, though, as we continue our special broadcast from the Wheat City this morning on 97.9 FM and in Winnipeg, 89.3 FM, and we're at Chez Angela this morning, Cafe on 10th Street, we turn our attention to more serious matters that you may have heard part of in the news today. The Western Manitoba Women's Centre is located in the heart here of downtown Brandon. It offers everything from downtown breakfast that you can drop in on, connecting to Indigenous culture. There's advocacy, there's counseling to those who need services, but they're also hoping to help rural communities build similar support systems. So over nearly 2 years, they've been studying how to do that. They visited 6 communities across Westman, speaking with service providers and survivors that might be helped by a federal government grant they received in 2024. So what they found, the result of it, is a study called Advancing the Rights of Women Experiencing Gender-Based Violence in southwestern Manitoba. The results came out just last week. CBC Brandon reporter Chelsea Kemp is here with those details. Hello, Chelsea.
Hey, Marcy. Good to see you here.
Yeah, I'm happy to be in your city here in Brandon. Tell us a bit about this study. Came out last Thursday. Why was it needed?
So I think one of the first things to understand about Manitoba is we have one of the highest rates of gender-based violence in the country. And the Women's Centre wants to unpack that. So I spoke with the project coordinator named Jamie Brown. And she says they've been going out, they've been in different communities, just finding out what makes it different experiencing that violence rurally versus urban. And she found some really striking results. Like the big takeaway is isolation. Helps hours away in some cases, both in terms of service providers and RCMP. And they want to figure out how to kind of address those really complex barriers.
And she also talked a little bit about some of the stigma that surrounds speaking out. I think we have a clip.
It can be very eye-opening to, something as simple as transportation or childcare, and the stigma that it still exists in rural contexts is still very, very prevalent.
And so they spoke, when they visited the different communities, they spoke with service providers, survivors, community members, just to better understand how to help. They want to listen to communities for what they need as opposed to telling them what they need. And so, again, the big takeaway is destigmatizing, talking about violence, and also just getting help more easily available.
One of the other things I understand she talked about is response from law enforcement. Is that right?
It can take time. Like in the city, like even right now, we're 4 or 5 blocks from BPS. If you're somewhere like McGregor or if you're in McCurry, they're just not as close, and they're also covering a vast geography.
Here once again is Jamie Brown.
Basically shine a light on everything that's happening. Anything that we can go to and attend and support, any presentations that we can do to build that education and that training in the community, we are doing.
What are some of the challenges that the study found specifically? You've got some of the numbers here.
Well, one thing that really struck me when talking with Jamie is how most service providers, about 70%, are helping women experiencing gender-based violence, but only 6% of them felt confident in offering that help. And a lot of that is just because they don't have the same access they do in the city. They don't have safe housing. They don't have anonymity. And that needs to change. I actually spoke with a service provider in Neepawa. Her name's Amanda Nottingale, and she helps run the Neepawa Salvation Army Food Bank. And she says often in rural communities it falls to them to help out. She also said churches, teachers, health providers step up, but they don't always necessarily have what they need to make a difference.
A lot of times people don't know where to go, don't know what it's available, and a lot of times service providers don't know what's available.
And so speaking with Nottingale, she really hopes this study highlights what's needed and pushes government to kind of step up and help. Like she says, it's an issue of equity. Someone who lives rurally should have the same supports as someone who lives urban.
A lot of times rural women stay in situations that they shouldn't be staying in for way longer than we would ever want them to be in. It's just because of all of those things. You're disrupting your children, or you're disrupting your social networks, your family, your friends.
And so I also had the opportunity to speak with a survivor named Jessica Laxdal. And she says one thing that's really needed is peer-led support groups, because they've lived it, they've experienced it, and they can help out. But they also need help and funding and safe places to meet.
So when we are talking about smaller communities where, it could be the perpetrator's family who might be working at one of those agencies. So really we have to take this into account when we go to plan the survivor supports.
It's more difficult, right? When you really think about all those things, like now we're talking about the geography, then the community is small. They don't have the same number of services. They're up against a lot in rural Manitoba. So this report came out, as I mentioned, just last week after 2 years, or last Thursday, I think. What are some of the recommendations that came out of the study?
And so the Western Manitoba Women's Centre is making several recommendations based on this study. And again, that is from talking to community based on lived experiences. And there's some big ones, like making more accessible and safe housing for people fleeing domestic abuse, boosting local trauma-informed care and advocacy in these rural communities, creating survivor-led peer support networks, as Laxdal wanted, and also working with law enforcement just to have quicker response or more trauma-informed response. When I spoke with Laxdal, she says she really just hopes this kind of changes conversations, makes it less taboo to speak about, and just opens up making change.
That we've been battling the same battles that women ahead of our times have been battling for years and years as well. So as much hope that we can hold on to, but I do think that there needs to be more within the community, more conversations happening with everyone.
Just to wind it out for a moment here before you go, what is next for the Women's Centre?
And so for them, they're still working with communities. Like I spoke with their Director of Counseling, Kim Owaziak. She says the goal is just to be respectful, give communities what they need. And
whatever delivery of service that we're doing is really
they found in the report, so there's better access.
Whatever delivery of service that we're doing is really appropriate, and that we're not doing any harm, right? So if we think going in and that they need something different than what we're offering, it's not going to be helpful at all. So we want to really challenge ourselves, right, and make sure that we're doing the right things.
And Jamie Brown coordinated the research. How does she feel about the fact that there's going to be another phase here of the project?
Well, to be fair, they do need to secure more funding for phase 2.
Oh, to make it happen. Okay.
And that they are pretty confident, because this is a serious issue.
Yeah.
And she says, people are still going to worry. We have friends, we have family who've experienced that, and she has really simple advice for them.
That's the beauty of rural as well, too. They're very close, tight-knit communities. So check in with your neighbors and your friends and your family members.
It's quite a study that they undertook, right? 2 years of really going to the grassroots. It's the only way you're really going to know what people need. So hopefully that funding will follow what the results of the study are. Chelsea, thank you for joining us. You also wrote a web piece, I understand.
And so if people are looking to learn more, you can check out both a video and a written piece on our new Southwestern Manitoba page on CBC Manitoba. And that is dedicated to Westman and all about us.
That's fantastic. And just as an aside, I do have to tell you this, and I want to say it live on the air. When I was actually talking about the fact that we had this story coming up, and I said from our one of our Brandon reporters, Chelsea Kemp, the mayor actually started clapping for you. So they're grateful to have you here with your reporting. So we appreciate you too. Thank you.
I am grateful to live in this community.
That is CBC's Brandon reporter Chelsea Kemp with us live here. Our whole show is in Brandon this morning. Shea Angela's been great. We're lucky enough that they've been allowed us to have their restaurant here on 10th in downtown Brandon be our community studio today. So we have much more to come on our live broadcast. It's 3 minutes to 8 o'clock now. Speaking of which, after 8 o'clock, we're going to really dig into it. The head of Brandon's downtown business is going to join us. She says she loves living rural, but she believes an urban vibe for this city's downtown is achievable. We're going to find out how she's working to grow that here in the face of a lot of challenges. We're also going to just talk all things Brandon and find out what the future of Brandon could be in terms of the city's core, that is. In addition, after 8 o'clock, as I mentioned, we will reveal who our contest winner is. A lot of you entered to win all 5 books in Canada Reads, autographed by the authors, but alas, we did randomly choose one person's name, and I'll tell you who it is and who's going to be reading over the rest of spring break coming up. It is April 1st. In the forecast, minus 17 right now in Winnipeg, and we have minus 17 here in Brandon, minus 9 in Winnipeg, and minus 11 in Thompson right now. In Winnipeg and Brandon, highs of 1 degree here. In Winnipeg, high of 1 degree. Here in Brandon, a high of minus 1. And then up in Thompson today, you're going to get to 2 degrees. Heather Wells is in with our headlines. Good morning.
Well, Manitoba's reviewing a decision to allow its prairie counterparts to use a highly toxic poison on ground squirrels. Strychnine was banned across the country 2 years ago. Alberta and Saskatchewan got federal approval this week to use it again. And the Manitoba Federation of Labour is calling on the province to create a plan to lift minimum wage earners out of poverty. President Kevin Rebeck says the minimum wage falls short of what Manitoba workers need. I'll be back with more on those stories and other Manitoba news coming up at 8:30.
All right. Thanks very much, Heather. Well, much more to come on our Brandon show. Stay with us. And if you need issues in traffic called, please call 788-3093.
The Cure for Drowning by Logan Paylor in this year's Canada Reads One Book to Build Bridges. It's a really accessible book. I think that's one of its bridges. It's beautifully written without being intimidating. I think the way to get into this book will be different for everybody, but there's a lot of ways in.
Canada Reads. It all starts April 13th. For more, go to cbcbooks.ca. Is next. Coming up in half an hour, it's The Current with Matt Galloway.
A lot of parents keep a close eye on how much time their kids spend on their screens at home, but at school, teachers are turning to tools like YouTube and iPad games, and there aren't actually guidelines for those teachers to follow. We'll talk about that coming up on The Current.
This is World Report. Good morning, I'm John Northcott. U.S. President Donald Trump appears confident that the war in Iran will end soon. The conflict, now in its 33rd day, continues to spread across the Middle East. Tonight, Trump is expected to address the nation in a primetime speech. The White House is calling it, quote, an important update on the conflict. The CBC's Willie Lowry joins us now from our Washington bureau. So, Willie, first, this is the latest we're hearing, or rather, what is the latest we're hearing from Trump on the war?
Well, John, that it's almost over. President Donald Trump telling reporters yesterday in the Oval Office that the war would likely end in the next few weeks.
But we're finishing the job, and I think within maybe 2 weeks, maybe a couple of days longer to do the job.
Trump says the U.S. and Israel have already achieved regime change in Iran by killing the former supreme leader and dozens of other members of the government. He has been so underwhelmed by allies' response to the U.S. war against Iran that he told The Telegraph the U.S. is considering withdrawing from NATO, a move that would, of course, have huge implications.
All right, a lot of statements there from the president, but there's this address tonight. What are we expecting to hear there?
So it comes at a pivotal moment. The U.S. has amassed 50,000 troops in the Middle East. That's at least 10,000 more than normal. And the administration has sent mixed signals with regard to a possible ground invasion. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth telling reporters the U.S. has 15 different options it could use when putting troops on the ground. He also said the upcoming days would be decisive and that unpredictability was key. Recent polls suggest that Americans do not want to see troops sent into Iran. Whether that will factor into Trump's decision-making remains to be seen.
The CBC's Willie Lowry in Washington. Thanks, Willie.
My pleasure, John.
Rescue workers pulled survivors from a building hit by an Israeli strike on Tehran. Iran's capital has repeatedly come under attack from both Israel and the U.S. Israel's military says it has carried out a, quote, wide-scale wave of strikes targeting various infrastructure sites. Iran and its proxies have been firing back, hitting targets in central and southern Israel. In Yemen, a spokesperson for the Houthis claims the group has carried out a third strike on Israel. It says it fired at, quote, sensitive targets of the Israeli enemy, end quote. The statement says the operation was conducted in cooperation with Iran and Hezbollah. Canada's Finance Minister, François-Philippe Champagne, is in China. Now, he's on a mission to attract new investment and build trade partnerships with Beijing. The CBC's Lisa Shing is covering the trip.
In China's capital, there are many Canadians who want to do more business with the world's second largest economy.
It's a significant market that cannot be substituted or replaced.
Take David Perez de Rosier, the head of the Canada-China Business Council's Beijing office.
There's going to be opportunities in services in boosting domestic demand.
Perez de Rosier says Canadians need to capitalize on the opportunity provided by U.S. President Donald Trump, who's waging a trade war with the world and has effectively pushed many countries, including Canada, to find new partners.
To explore issues around trade, commerce.
That's why Canada's Finance Minister, François-Philippe Champagne, is in China, meeting with government and business leaders to build on Prime Minister Mark Carney's visit earlier this year, when he inked a deal to allow 49,000 Chinese EVs into Canada for lower or removed tariffs on many agricultural products like canola. Champagne said this about his visit.
China is the second largest economy and our second largest trading partner. So you have to engage.
Since Trump launched his tariff war, China has positioned itself as a stable, reliable partner. Xiang Songzuo is a professor at the Renmin University School of Finance in Beijing.
Good relationship between two countries, not only important in terms of trade, but also for people of two countries.
Despite the thaw, there are still challenges. Some products like pork are still facing 25% counter tariffs, something Perez de Rosier hopes will come up during Champagne's visit. Lisa Shing, CBC News, Beijing.
More than 9 years after a Newfoundland woman disappeared, a murder trial in her suspected death gets underway. Jennifer Hillier-Penny was 38 years old and a mother of two when she went missing. No trace of her has been found despite nearly a decade of intensive searches and reward offers. Today, her estranged husband will stand trial. Ryan Cook has more.
As the first-degree murder trial for Dean Penny begins this morning, one haunting question will loom over the proceedings. Where is Jennifer Hillier-Penny? The trial is taking place more than 9 years after her disappearance, around the same time every year when the ice melts, the snow thaws, and the RCMP search teams head back to St. Anthony. That's where Hillier-Penny was last seen, November 30th, 2016, at the home she once shared with her husband, Dean Penny. The couple was going through a separation, and Hillier-Penny was staying with her father in nearby St. Lunaire Griquet. She went to stay with their 15-year-old daughter at the family home that night while Penny was away duck hunting. She was reported missing the next day. Her wallet, phone, and shoes were still inside the house, her car still parked in the driveway outside. We know investigators seized items from Dean Penny's truck and cabin. They've applied to the court annually to hold on to those items. Years went by, and then an investigative break led to Penny's arrest in 2023. Police have never said what information led to that development. Penny pleaded not guilty, setting the stage for a jury trial starting this morning in Corner Brook. The trial is slated to run until the end of the month. Ryan Cook, CBC News, St. John's.
U.S. President Donald Trump is moving to tighten mail-in voting rules. Last night, he signed an executive order directing the Department of Homeland Security to create a national list of eligible voters. That list would be sent to state election officials. The order also directs the Attorney General to prosecute election officials who provide federal ballots to anyone not on the confirmed list. Trump recognized the order is likely to face legal challenges. The president does not actually have constitutional authority over elections. Trump has for years held on to his false claim that his 2020 election defeat was the result of widespread voter fraud. But his vocal opposition to mail-in ballots did not stop him from voting that way in a special election in Florida just last week. Canada's men's soccer team is in the home stretch of preparations for the FIFA World Cup. The team played in a scoreless draw last night against Tunisia. It was their second of 2 friendly matches played in March. The next time we'll see the team in action is in June. And as Thomas Daigley reports, the team finally knows who will be their World Cup first opponent.
With Bosnia eliminating Italy in a penalty shootout, there was elation on the streets of Sarajevo and heartbreak in Toronto's Little Italy.
It was such a disappointment. I'm gonna go home and cry for the rest of the day.
With Canadian fans taunting supporters of that losing team.
Welcome to the bandwagon, guys. Feel free to join and support Canada.
The Canadian squad will host Bosnia in Toronto on June 12th for the first ever FIFA Men's World Cup match played here. Head coach Jesse Marsh.
We know how focused we need to be and exactly what it takes to be successful in this tournament.
As for Bosnia, it's the first time in 12 years the country reaches soccer's biggest stage. And former Team Canada member to St. Ricketts has this warning.
I can see that Bosnia is direct, physical, a team that is also disciplined and has good defensive shape. So they're not going to be easy.
The Canadians will travel to Vancouver for their 2 other group stage games against Qatar and Switzerland, hoping for the first time to reach the next round. Thomas Daigle, CBC News, Toronto.
3, 2, 1. Boosters in ignition. And liftoff of Artemis 1. We rise together back to the moon and beyond.
Now, if all goes according to plan, that scene will be replicated in Florida later today. But unlike the 2022 launch of Artemis 1, this sequel mission will have humans on board. One of those humans? A Canadian, Jeremy Hansen, one of the crew members, as Artemis 2 is slated to go around the moon. Canadian Space Agency President Lisa Campbell says Hansen's inclusion builds on decades of Canadian investment in space.
In addition to the training by our astronaut, Canada has been a partner with the United States for over 50 years in space, and now we're about to launch humans to the moon.
The 10-day Artemis 2 mission is aimed at paving the way for Artemis 3. It's scheduled for launch next year. It would see humans walking on the moon for the first time since 1972. The launch window for Artemis 2 opens tonight at 6:24 p.m. Eastern Time. Well, that is the latest national and international news from World Report. I'm John Northcott. This is CBC News.
To the winter fair?
Santa.
Santa? What? There's Santa at the winter fair? But it's March. What's Santa doing at the winter fair?
Bring stuff.
First of all, what's all you guys' names? Can you tell me your names?
Marcus. Nicholas. Thomas.
Oh, you guys just got here. Okay, well, what are you excited to do at the fair?
Eat. Hi, my name's Charlotte.
What's your favorite part about the fair so far?
The face paint. Hi, you're listening to Information Radio. Information Radio. Live from Brandon. Live from Brandon, Manitoba. CBC Radio 1.
I think I might have a job. How cute were those kids at the Royal Manitoba Winter Fair? Welcome, everyone, and good morning. It's a special edition of CBC's Information Radio on CBC, and we are out live in Brandon. Our community studio is Chez Angela Bakery and Cafe on 10th Street in downtown Brandon. Those kids, of course, over at the Royal Manitoba Fair, which is on all this spring break week as tens of thousands of people descend on this western Manitoba city. Brandon, of course, is the second largest city in our Manitoba, and the province has also recognized a lot of the different growth here. The population has grown now over 51,000, but downtown has some challenges. If you remember Alessio's Pasta and the Strand Theatre, then you've been to downtown Brandon. But today, the core is looking at a situation currently that's not unlike what we're up against in Winnipeg. What's the way forward to attract investors, to get some housing down here? We've got a business panel coming up to talk about what's happening now and also the promise of a brighter future here downtown in Brandon. So stay tuned for that. Also, in a moment, we will announce the winner of the Canada Reads package of books, all 5 books autographed by the authors. We have randomly chosen a winner, so stay tuned. Right now, let's go to Heather Welsh. She has your headlines from Winnipeg.
Good morning. Well, a Brandon Women's Centre is calling for more help to fight gender-based violence. The Western Manitoba Women's Centre has completed a study at the issue in rural settings compared to cities. We'll hear its recommendations coming up. And a pharmacy manager has pleaded guilty to professional misconduct after an investigation found a kidney transplant patient didn't have vital medications for 2 months. Mohammed Abdelhamid managed a Shoppers Drug Mart pharmacy in Morden between 2021 and 2022. The College of Physicians, Pharmacists of Manitoba has ordered him to pay $15,000. I'll be back with more Manitoba news coming up at 8:30.
All right. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
Well, let's get into some of the weather forecast here. In Winnipeg, partly cloudy, -7. Winds are calm. We're going to be around 1 degree with increasing cloud today. Here in Brandon, out the window, there's a little bit of hoarfrost in some of the trees. Makes it a little bit pretty. And then we've got pretty cloudy sky. And your high here in Brandon is going to be around -1 today. That fog that you are seeing out there should dissipate this morning. And it doesn't look like it's anything major. So that's good. Currently in Brandon, we are sitting at -14. Up in Thompson, -12. For the day, you're going to be sitting at a high of 2 degrees. I haven't had any calls or issues in traffic so far this morning, so please call us with any updates from the highways or whatever city or community you're in. 788-3093 is where you can. What I do have is comments. So I asked you to fill in the blank on Facebook. I said, Wheat Kings and Pretty Things and what? Of course, I'm riffing off the Tragically Hip song. And so a lot of you have been writing in about Brandon. We have Peter Harvey saying, home of musical and community theater. Linda English says, it's got great post-secondary institutions, even more than what people might know about Brandon University and Assiniboine College. Worth considering when choosing and looking for a school. People writing in to reiterate, back her up. Jake Josephson saying the music school's amazing. Also, there's a graphics program at Assiniboine and the psych nursing at BU is the only one in the province. Lots of opportunities. Candy Shelby saying it's bigger than you think. Lots to do in Brandon, a great sports town, winter and summer. And yeah, the Wheat Kings still in the playoffs. They've still got a chance. Another game on Thursday to make it through Calgary. And then we have Jake Josephson writing in, there's a hill. And why am I reading that? Because if you've never been to this part of Westman, and I'm always conscious some Manitobans listening might not have ever traveled the province, you're right. There is a hill. And this is the part of the province where we start to get into the hills and the valleys and that. Of course, all around Winnipeg, we are mighty flat. Let's mention our contest winner. Now is the time. We told you that we had all 5 books that are the shortlisted for Canada Reads this year on CBC. The debates are about to start April 13th to 16th. Those books are A Minor Chorus, Searching for Terry Punchout, The Cure for Drowning, Foe, and it's different this time. All 5 of those books were autographed by the authors, and we said, who wants to win? For your chance to win, we asked you to call our listener line or write to us with 2 lines of your favorite book and to read them to us or write them to us in an email. We randomly chose from all of the entries, and there were a lot over this last week and a half. But here is our winning call.
Hi, my name is Jody, and I just wanted to share a little quote from a book. It's super short, and it's kind of cute. There's many choices that we have for quotes from books, but I just read My Friends by Frederick Bachman, who's very creative with his writing, and this is a little quote or a citation that I found really cute. The way Ted looks at her isn't entirely dissimilar to the way you would look at a spider on a sandwich. I thought that captured it really well. Anyway, have a great day. Thanks for this.
Well, I'll tell you what, Jody Daly, you are lucky this morning because you have been randomly chosen, and so you're our winner. All 5 books in Canada Reads, the finalists, coming your way, so you'll have lots to read for the rest of spring break. Congrats. Well, when James Chambers looks out the window of this downtown Brandon business, our location today, Chez Angela, he remembers long closed bowling alleys, the Strand Theatre, Alessio's Pasta, and Anna's Bakery. Some of those signs are still up on vacant buildings here, harkening back to a more bustling time in downtown Brandon. To talk about the way forward in Brandon's core, James is with us. He's also been on Brandon's Poverty Committee, Safety and Wellness Task Force, Samaritan House, and Downtown Development Corp, so he's very involved. Hi, James.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having us here. It's getting bustling in here in Chez Angela.
Yeah, a regular Wednesday morning for us. Not really. We're open at 6 today, so it was great to have you guys here and to be bringing some spotlight to our community and to downtown.
Oh, we're thrilled to be in Brandon. It's been too long, and it's just wonderful to be here to meet the people as more are streaming in the doors. We're going to talk about business. You're not alone on the panel here because sitting beside you is someone that loves talking about downtown Brandon. Emmy Sanderson's the Executive Director of Brandon Downtown Biz. Good morning.
Good morning, Marcy.
So why do you love it so much, Emmy? Let's start with you. Where does your passion for revitalizing the downtown core come from?
Well, I think it comes from a few places. Personally, so I grew up in a bigger center. I grew up on the West Coast, Vancouver area. I've been in Manitoba 20 years, in Brandon only a couple years. And so for me, there's a bit of a selfish component that when I come down here, it's a little taste of home. It's a little urban center in our rural community. And also I am in love with the historic aspect to it, like the old brick buildings and all that stuff. Even growing up on the West Coast, we didn't have that. We didn't have the architecture quite the same as this, and the brick sidewalks and all that stuff. And I also have a really intense passion for supporting small business and small entrepreneurs like James here, people that put everything, their entire livelihoods, their heart and souls, 24/7 hours a day, working to run a business, to be part of a community.
Yeah.
And I have a huge strong advocacy in me to support those people.
Yeah. So James, let's talk about a couple things that Emmy pulled out here first from your business at Chez Angela. So first of all, historic building. This is the Bass building.
Right.
Last time, you and I were talking in probably 2018, 2017. You guys are just starting.
Yeah.
This building was under renovation. I think you guys were coming from doing pop-ups at like sort of local markets, and you had a plan to open a small bakery. So how big is Chez Angela today?
Well, so yeah, back in 2017, Angie started pop-ups, and she was doing the farmers market and things like that. And the idea was there was going to be 3 or 4 part-time staff, and it might be 3 or 4 days a week. Today, we've created over 30 jobs here right in the heart of the city. We're open 7 days a week. We do wholesale to other restaurants and food trucks, and it's just been an incredible journey. It's really not anything we dreamed of or planned for, but we wouldn't change a thing.
Which is why Angie's not on the air. She's too busy.
She's very busy, yeah.
She's in the back, actually. So I want to ask you, in terms of the history of this building, tell us a little bit about, and even I mentioned some of the old businesses at the beginning.
Yeah.
You've incorporated some of that here, right?
We have. So Angie and I are high school sweethearts. We started dating when we were 16, and one of our first dates was at the Strand Theatre, which is a block away. And when they tore that down in early 2018, we actually went and reclaimed some of the brick and wood. So when you come into our cafe and you see some of the accent and the detail here, that's what you're looking at. It's part of our story, and it's part of downtown story, and we wanted to keep it here. But yeah, we got this. It was we had stud walls, and we just little bit by little bit we carved out piece by piece, and we've turned this into something that we can, we have 30 staff members, almost family-like to us, but also a place that can really serve this community. And so we have the privilege and the pleasure of hosting over 80 community events a year, over 100 different groups come in for presenting music or having celebrations and things like that where they involve the community as well. It's just really become a vibrant space, and we're just so happy to be part of it.
I'll tell you what, when CBC asked where we should broadcast around, we always ask people, leading up, everyone's like, Chez Angela, Chez Angela, Chez Angela.
Oh, that's
so
great.
Here we are.
So nice.
I want to ask what you're up against in terms of obstacles downtown and making it that, Emmy, that when you look out the window, that future vibrant urban core that you see, because we even heard earlier this morning, we heard the mayor talking about vacancies and challenges, though he's also hopeful. Mm-hmm. We heard some residents saying that they feel unsafe. Some residents saying that, the reality is there are a lot of, vacant lots or empty buildings. How are you going to get there? Like, what are the obstacles here?
So I think we really need to, acknowledge the effect that COVID had on so many downtown centers and the effect it had on small business and all that stuff. So we're basically rebuilding from only a few short years ago. And I would say in the time that the biz has been active in the last 2 years, those vacancies are going down. And I'm not saying because of the biz, but it is rebounding. We are rebounding. And around the safety concerns, like our downtown is statistically quite safe, but I do acknowledge, like, we can't be blind to the fact that it can be uncomfortable for people. You know, like sometimes the streets are a little quieter and we need more people downtown. So there's a lot we can do, and there's a lot that is going, but it is rebounding and it is happening. And so what are the challenges? Challenges are the same as every other urban core. You know, you have, like I said, like the challenges for any business operating now, any retail space, you know, you're up against online shopping, you know, like the cost of goods, like foods. James can attest to that, just the rising increase of everything, trying to keep a business afloat. So, you know, we have that. But a major challenge for our downtown, like when I came downtown and was part of the birth of the biz, I spent a good 6 months just learning as an outsider, as a new person in Brandon. The perception. We have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of active, successful businesses in the downtown core. It is a money.
I think you told me on the phone 200 or 300 businesges, right?
300 to 400, I would say, depending like what you classify. And you know, this neighborhood generates more money than this ward generates more money than any other ward in the city. Like, this is a vibrant, active neighborhood, but like we heard, the perception that people have can bring challenges to it in itself.
I was going to ask you, why should people out all of Brandon listening this morning, right? Mm-hmm. Why should they care about the city's core? You know, if things are growing and thriving in other areas, why does this, you know, looking out the window here at 10th Street, why does this matter?
So that's a great question, and I'm going to try and summarize it really quickly because I can talk for a long time about this, but core neighborhoods are incredibly important to the health of the entire city. And like I said, even in a challenged state, this neighborhood makes more money than any other neighborhood in the city for the whole city. So when you have a healthy core, like if we had a healthy, vibrant downtown, why do we care? Because it's more swimming pools. It's more money for parks and streets and roads and community programming and schools for the entire city. Like, this neighborhood will feed the entire city.
How important is housing, James? I mean, obviously you even walk to work, you were sharing, and you'll pass by vacant lots and houses that could do. How important is the housing piece of this? We've been talking about the business piece, but
I think it's critical because, you know, there's the one aspect of, first of all, we've got a housing situation in Brandon where we have a very low vacancy rate. There's affordable housing issues, but there's also market rate housing issues, and we need that foot traffic that happens naturally when you have a vibrant downtown and people living down here. The ability to work and live, or to live close to where you work, completely changes the dynamic of a neighborhood. We have, as I said, about 30 staff, and 60% of them live within walking distance. And, going back to, the other side of the safety piece is tied to the housing as well, because with that bustle of just having that foot traffic, it really makes a difference. We've now had over 52,000 shifts here at Shea Angela for our staff over the last 8 years. Mm-hmm. That means that over 100,000 times our staff members have walked or driven or whatever to and from work without incident. And that's a really important thing to call out when people talk about it, not being safe, and me pointing out that's a perception.
That's your part of trying to change perception.
Yeah, exactly. Make sure that we're aware of the fact that there can be a lot of, that it is intrinsically safe.
Just as a small aside here, because I keep talking about the local ingredients, is it right that you're like your butter, flour, like you try to go really local?
Yeah, we're over 82% now of every dollar spent stays in Manitoba, over 90% stays in Canada, and because of the trade stuff happening, we've reduced our U.S. footprint to less than 2% of our spend. So yeah, we're as local as we can be.
Emmy, so if we look around here then and think about real opportunities, is it an art space that you're hoping someone's going to take on, or was it an old event space you were sharing?
Oh, yes, yeah. So we have the history of downtown. Another reason it's so important, the history of this city lives down here. And so we have the old fire hall event venue. We have, and I don't want to say too much about different things because you don't want to get people's hopes up, but we have so many irons in the fire downtown right now. I keep a list on my wall of all the things that are just at the tipping point that would be game changers for downtown, and 2026 is looking so promising.
Why would the fire hall, if that's going to happen, be a game changer? How big is it? What happens in there, this space? This is not a fire hall, by the way, Winnipeg.
It was a fire hall until recent years. It was a fire hall. Now it's an event space and a restaurant.
It was a restaurant before, and then it we lost that during the pandemic.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and so activating that space brings a destination to downtown. Just like Shea Angela is a destination, it creates another destination downtown, a reason for people to come down here and be And, and it just adds to that energy and activates those old historic spaces.
So you have your eye on that.
Yes.
You also have your eye on, I think, the not the Salvation Army, the John Howard Society is going to be opening a sobering center here and some housing. How, if and when that opens, because the mayor wouldn't give me a date, he just sort of winked at me and said, we don't know, we're hoping, it's not my announcement. But how might that opening have a positive impact on downtown?
Well, the John Howard Society, and I can't speak to the details of the project because I'd be afraid to mix something up, but that's just about supporting our entire community because, our downtown especially, it's eclectic. It's a whole spectrum of socioeconomic, individuals of all types, and the more support and resources we can bring to people that need it, people coming out of incarceration, people struggling with mental health and addiction issues, all that stuff is part of us as a community supporting everybody, and that's part of the downtown too. We have a lot of resources downtown. The Sobering Center is opening just across the tracks, and that's just going to be a space where we can support people. And, and maybe you help people get off the streets, and then it helps contribute to the safety. And, it's just about the ecosystem and taking care of everyone.
Why should people come to Brandon, James, if they're listening and they've never been?
There's a lot of great things. We have year-round, we have events that happen across the city. It is a rich arts presence. There's theater that happens, musical theater that happens through a number of local theater groups. We have over 200 live music events every year in downtown alone, and across the city, it's much more than that. There's a good sports culture. There's a good arts culture. There's a really wonderful sense of community, and we see right in our own cafe everything from Brandon Pride to a knitting group to the university study groups that happen here to a chess night that happens every Wednesday. It's just there's a vibrancy, and if it's more about, especially downtown, it's more about what do I have time for this week and not really what's going on. It's just really what are you going to fit in.
Thank you both for being here and sharing downtown Brandon and obviously your love of this city and this particular area in the core with all of Manitoba.
Thanks for bringing Brandon to the spotlight for the rest of the province.
Yeah, appreciate you too. Thank you. Emmy Sanderson, Executive Director of Brandon Downtown Biz, and James Chambers, the co-owner of Chez Angela Bakery and Cafe, which is our community studio this morning.
I'm Suresh Das. I've spent my career writing about the local favorites that make Canada's food scene truly unique. I've been into a chili. Woo! From vibrant street food to comforting traditional dishes.
The most important ingredients in jollof rice, love.
To innovative, personal twists. Butter chicken lasagna.
Butter chicken lasagna. That's what made it all happen.
I believe every bite tells a story. Now, I want to share those stories with you.
New series Locals Welcome with Suresh Das. Watch free on CBC Gem.
Time right now is coming up to 8:30, but right now Marjorie Dalhouse, the host of Radio Noon, is with us. Good morning, Marge.
Well, good morning, Marcy. Well, today on Radio Noon, it is April 1st. Happy April Fool's Day. So we're going to be asking you on the call-in today, what is the best prank that you've ever pulled? Are you a prankster? Do you celebrate April Fool's Day? So give us a call after 12:30. Call, text us, and join the conversation. I'd love to hear some of the creative things that people have done when it comes to pranks, right?
Oh, man. You know what? Honestly, I am not a prankster, and I fear being pranked. But if you're a prankster, you've always got something to share. They always create really good stories. And if you have one in your family, then you know exactly who that is.
Yeah, right now I'm just kind of looking over my shoulder. Okay, is something happening? Okay, I got to be on my toes today. But yeah, that's what we're talking about.
One.
Thanks,
All right,
Marcy.
thanks, Marge. It's a good one for spring break. It's perfect for April 1st, of course. Call in with your April Fool's prank moments between 12:30 and 1 o'clock on Radio Noon. You're listening to CBC at 97.9 FM here in Brandon and 89.3 in Winnipeg. Stay with us. Your news from Manitoba's next.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 8:30, it is -7, and the forecast is no April Fool's joke. It is cooler than seasonal, increasing clouds, bit of a breeze, and a high today of 1. A Brandon Women's Centre is calling for more help to fight gender-based violence. The Western Manitoba Women's Centre has completed a study looking at the issue in rural settings compared to cities. It recommends more accessible and safe housing, boosting trauma-informed care, and creating survivor-led peer support networks. Project coordinator Jamie Brown says there are complex barriers for people living in isolated communities.
It can be very eye-opening to, something as simple as transportation or childcare, and the stigma that it still exists in rural contexts is still very, very prevalent.
Brandon's Women's Centre wants to use this report to develop services and outreach in rural areas. The Manitoba Federation of Labour is calling on the province to create a plan to lift minimum wage earners out of poverty. President Kevin Rebeck says the minimum wage falls short of what Manitoba workers need. Manitoba's minimum wage is set to rise 40 cents an hour to $16.40 on October 1st. The MFL points to calculations by the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives showing workers in Winnipeg need to earn more than $19 an hour just to meet basic needs. An animal advocacy group wants a federal decision on a highly toxic poison reversed. The move allows some prairie farmers to use strychnine to kill ground squirrels. It's mainly to help farmers whose crops are getting destroyed by the rodents. Animal justice lawyer Alexandra Pester calls it a cruel poison that causes prolonged pain and suffering.
They often die slowly from suffocation or exhaustion as a result. It's also an indiscriminate poison, so it kills both target animals and non-target wildlife, such as birds, foxes, and coyotes.
The previously banned substance was approved for time-limited and controlled use in Alberta and Saskatchewan only. A spokesperson for Manitoba's Ag Minister says they're trying to figure out if it's needed here and whether the province should also ask for an exemption. A pharmacy manager has pleaded guilty to professional misconduct. Mohammed Abdelhamid managed a Shoppers Drug Mart pharmacy in Morden between 2021 and 2022. The College of Pharmacists of Manitoba has ordered him to pay $15,000 in fines and costs. It launched an investigation after a kidney transplant patient complained they were without vital medications for 2 months. The patient required surgery but suffered permanent damage. The college says the delay was caused by the pharmacy, which sent refill authorization forms to the wrong hospital twice. A Winnipeg wrestling star wrestles in his hometown tonight for the first time in 3 years.
One-winged angel!
Surgery and recovery from diverticulitis kept Kenny Omega out of the ring from late 2023 until the beginning of 2025. He wasn't able to wrestle the last time All Elite Wrestling was in Winnipeg, but says he now feels the best he has in a long time.
The past few occasions in Winnipeg especially, I was dealing with my diverticulitis issues. And that was a scary situation for me because I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to be in a position to ever do anything physical in the world of professional wrestling. So it really is almost a celebration.
Omega grew up in Transcona. His friends and family will be there tonight at Canada Life Centre. And the Canadian men's national soccer team now knows who it will play in its opening game of the 2026 World Cup.
And he does! The Italian course continues. Bosnia and Herzegovina will play in the FIFA World Cup.
Bosnia beating Italy yesterday to win a spot at the most prestigious soccer tournament on earth. This is the third straight time Italy failed to qualify for the World Cup. Bosnia will play Canada on June 12th in Toronto. You can find more news updated throughout the day at cbc.ca/Manitoba.
All right. Thanks very much, Heather.
Thank you.
I want to mention what's coming up tomorrow on the program. So tomorrow we're still in Brandon, so it's going to be our second lovely show. Tomorrow we are at Forbidden Flavors, and this is on 18th. So if you want to join us there in Brandon, please do. Tomorrow, a girl, her miniature horse, and a lesson in rural life as we take you back over to the Royal Manitoba Winter Fair for another story. Plus, he's done a painting every day of Brandon since 2003. We're going to hear from a local artist about why he's been doing that. Also, here's a special treat. He's going to to do a painting live on the show during the show, and then we're going to give it away at the end of tomorrow's show from Brandon. So that'll be really special. And to serious matters, as you heard this week on Information Radio, there's a huge desire for the province to get going on a program to help licensed practical nurses become RNs or registered nurses. We're going to talk to Assiniboine College. They have more than 1,200 people who have been waiting for that program to get going. They showed up at a recent session to learn more about it here, 1,200. So stay tuned for that story and more. We're live from Brandon again tomorrow. For today, I just want to do some thank yous here. So huge thanks to James and Angela Chambers and all of their staff. They opened early for us. We so appreciate it. Chez Angela on 10th. They've been our community studio, bakery and cafe here in Brandon downtown. Also, big thanks to all of our local Brandon guests. We appreciate you sharing your love of this city and also the challenges that lay ahead and how you're going to solve them. So we love having you all here on the program. So thank you for being on CBC. In addition, I have to thank just our CBC morning crew. So today, Brandon reporter Chelsea Kemp, in our news department, Heather Wells, Megan Ketchison, Joni Nicolo, producers Nellie Gonzalez and Leif Larson, and our indispensable crew that gets these remote shows done, Mr. Corey Funk. Let me say his name again, Mr. Corey Funk. Also, Abby Adiemi and Darren Marash holding it down back in Winnipeg in our studio control room, and Prabjot Singh Lote, who is with us here on site taking beautiful images and visuals. Join us again as we're live from Brandon again. We leave you here in Winnipeg with -7.